The piano keys were still warm from my practice when I heard Dad's footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, deliberate, each one a warning that made my fingers instinctively curl. It was 5 a.m. on the morning of the Bernstein Youth Piano Competition, the one that came with a full scholarship to Juilliard if he won. I'd been practicing since 3 a.m., using the soft pedal so I wouldn't wake them. But Dad had superhuman hearing when it came to finding reasons to hurt me. "What did I tell you about playing before sunrise?" His voice filled the small music room in our basement, the one that used to be a storage closet before I cleaned it out myself. "My name is Aria." Ironic, I know, and I've been playing piano since I was 4. Not because my parents wanted me to, but because my elementary school music teacher, Mrs. Kobayashi, saw something in me and taught me for free after school. She'd even given me her old keyboard when she upgraded. That keyboard had been my lifeline for 13 years. "The competition is at noon," I said quietly, my hands still positioned over the keys. "I need to warm up." "You need to learn respect," Dad corrected, moving closer. I could smell the whiskey from last night still on his breath. "Playing that thing while decent people sleep, thinking you're special." Mom appeared in the doorway, her silk robe tied loosely, hair perfect even at dawn. She was always perfect on the outside. Is she pretending to be talented again? "The audition is today," I reminded them, though they knew. They'd been mocking me about it for weeks, calling it Aria's little delusion, and taking bets on how badly I'd fail. "The Juilliard Scholarship Competition," Dad said slowly, like he was tasting something sour. "You really think they'd want someone like you?" I didn't answer. I've learned that answers were just ammunition. "Stand up," he commanded. I stood, but my hand brushed against the stack of sheet music on the piano bench. Chopin's Ballade No. 1, the piece I'd be performing in 7 hours. He grabbed the pages, looking at the complex notation with disgust. "This?" He laughed, the sound sharp and ugly. "You think you can play this?" "I've been practicing for 8 months." He tore the sheets in half, then quarters, then kept tearing until Chopin was confetti on the floor. "That's what I think of your practicing." Mom giggled from the doorway. She probably couldn't play it anyway. Her teacher just feels sorry for her. But I wasn't watching the destroyed music. I was watching the small red light in the corner of the room, the one they'd never noticed. 2 months ago, after Dad had smashed my keyboard and I had to borrow the schools to practice, I'd installed a security camera. It was disguised as part of an old speaker, constantly recording, uploading everything to the cloud. "Let's go upstairs," Dad said suddenly. "I want to show you something." The way he said it made my blood cold, but I followed because not following was worse. In the kitchen, morning light was just starting to creep through the windows. Dad walked to the back door, the heavy wooden one that led to the garage. He opened it wide. "Come here," he said. I approached slowly, every instinct screaming danger. "Put your hands on the doorframe," he instructed. "Spread your fingers wide." "Dad, please." "Do it." I placed my hands on the frame, fingers spread, knowing what was coming but unable to stop it. He threatened this before, usually when drunk, talking about how pianists were all soft and weak, how they needed their precious fingers intact. "You know what?" he said, gripping the door. "Musicians don't need straight fingers. They need humility." He slammed the door. The sound my fingers made, a wet crunch like stepping on autumn leaves after rain, was drowned out by my scream. All 10 fingers caught in the door's brutal bite. I felt bones snap, joints compress, tendons tear. The pain was so absolute it went beyond feeling into something else, a white-hot nothing that consumed everything. He held the door closed for 3 seconds. 3 eternal seconds where I could feel my fingers breaking, crushing, dying. When he finally released it, I collapsed to my knees, holding my destroyed hands against my chest. They were already swelling, turning purple and black, fingers bent at angles that fingers shouldn't bend. "Broken hands match your broken future." Dad laughed, actually laughed, like he told the world's best joke. Mom stepped closer, examining my hands with the critical eye she usually reserved for judging other women's appearances. "Finally, something about you is twisted correctly." I couldn't speak. The pain was too absolute. But through the tears, I saw something Dad didn't. The kitchen security camera. We had it installed years ago after a break-in. He'd forgotten about it, but it was still there, still recording, its lens capturing everything. "Clean yourself up," Dad said, already bored. and cancel your little competition. Tell them you're sick. They left me there on the kitchen floor, cradling my ruined hands. Each heartbeat sent new waves of agony through my fingers. I couldn't move them, couldn't feel anything but pain. But I didn't call to cancel. Instead, I called Mrs. Kobayashi. Area? Her voice was immediately concerned. It's so early. I need help. I whispered. Please, bring your car. And call Dr. Martinez. Dr. Martinez was her husband, an emergency room physician who'd always been suspicious of my various accidents over the years. They arrived in 15 minutes. Mom and Dad had gone back to bed, confident they'd destroyed my future. Mrs. Kobayashi used the spare key I told her about, finding me still on the kitchen floor. Oh my God, Dr. Martinez breathed when he saw my hands. We need to get you to the hospital immediately. The competition, I managed to say. Forget the competition. No, I looked him in the eyes. We go to the hospital, get my fingers splinted, and I play. Area, your fingers are broken. I know, but I'm playing. Mrs. Kobayashi looked at her husband, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of the kind of determination that comes from having everything taken from you. At the hospital, X-rays confirmed what I already knew. 7 of my 10 fingers were fractured. My right pinky was dislocated. My left thumb was cracked. The resident on duty wanted to cast both hands immediately. I need them splinted, I said. Individually. I have to play piano in 4 hours. That's impossible, the resident said. The pain alone. I've been living with pain for 17 years, I told him. Please, just splint them so I can move them a little. Dr. Martinez pulled the resident aside. They had a quiet, intense conversation. When they came back, the resident looked troubled but agreed. They splinted each finger carefully, leaving just enough flexibility for limited movement. Then they gave me the maximum dose of painkillers that would still leave me coherent. It barely touched the agony, but it took the edge off enough that I could think. We need to call the police, Dr. Martinez said. This is assault. After the competition, I said, please, let me do this first. We arrived at the concert hall at 11:45. I was the last performer, scheduled for 3:00 p.m. My hands were wrapped in white bandages with metal splints visible between them. Every movement was agony, even with the painkillers. The other competitors stared. The judges noticed immediately, but there was nothing in the rules that said you couldn't compete with injured hands. I sat in the audience for the first performances, studying my competition but mostly trying to breathe through the pain. My phone buzzed with texts from Dad. Where are you? You better not be at that competition. Come home now. I turned off my phone. At 2:45, they called my name for warm-up. Backstage, Mrs. Kobayashi helped me remove the outer bandages, leaving just the splints. My fingers were swollen between the metal supports, purple and black and wrong. You don't have to do this, she said gently. Yes, I do, I replied. They tried to take music from me. They don't get to win. I walked onto the stage at exactly 3:00 p.m. The audience went silent seeing my hands. The judges leaned forward. One started to stand, perhaps to stop me, but the head judge motioned for him to sit. I sat at the piano bench, raised my destroyed hands, and began to play. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor starts gently, almost hesitant. My broken fingers found the keys through muscle memory more than sight. They were too swollen to position properly. Every note was agony. The splints clicked against the keys, adding a metallic percussion that Chopin never intended. But I played. The piece builds, becomes demanding, requires strength and delicacy in equal measure. My left pinky couldn't reach the bass notes properly, so I compensated with my thumb. My right hand's runs were clumsy, broken fingers refusing to flow across the keys. But I played. Blood started seeping through the bandages during the development section. The intense passages had reopened wounds. Red droplets spotted the white keys, but I didn't stop. The pain had transcended into something else. Fuel, maybe, or freedom. The coda of the ballade is fierce, demanding everything from the pianist. I gave it everything, broken fingers hammering out Chopin's passion, my blood literally on the keys. The final chord, a G minor blast that should be triumphant, came out broken, like me. But it came out. The silence after was complete. Then someone started clapping, slowly, then another. Then the entire audience was on their feet, many crying. The judges weren't even pretending to deliberate. But I wasn't done. I pulled the microphone from its stand with my least damaged finger. "My father broke my fingers this morning," I said, my voice carrying through the stunned hall. "He slammed them in a door because he didn't want me to compete." My mother laughed and said finally something about me was twisted correctly. Gasps rippled through the audience. "I have security footage of the assault," I continued, "and years of documented abuse. I played through broken fingers today not to win a scholarship, but to prove that they couldn't break what matters: my spirit, my music, my future." I looked directly at the head judge. "I withdraw from the competition. Someone here deserves to win on their talent, not their tragedy. But I needed to play. I needed to prove that even broken, I'm still a musician." The head judge stood up. "We cannot accept your withdrawal," he said into his own microphone, "because what we just witnessed transcends competition. You've already won something greater than any scholarship." Security had already called the police. Audience members had started dialing 911 the moment I mentioned the assault. By the time I walked off stage, officers were waiting to take my statement. Mrs. Kobayashi drove me back to the hospital, where they properly casted my hands after photographing all the injuries for evidence. The security footage from our kitchen was retrieved that evening. Clear as day, Dad positioning my hands, slamming the door, holding it closed. Mom laughing, both of them leaving me collapsed in agony. They were arrested that night. The story exploded. Teen plays Chopin with broken fingers after parents' assault made international headlines. The video of my performance went viral, millions of views in days. Professional pianists posted reactions, many in tears. The bloody keys became an image that haunted people. But more importantly, the security footage was released during the trial. The world saw what they did. Saw Dad's deliberate cruelty, Mom's delighted reaction, their complete lack of humanity. The trial was swift. Attempted murder, aggravated assault, child abuse, torture. Dad got 30 years, Mom got 25. Neither showed remorse, even when the prosecutor played the recording of my performance, showing the blood, the swollen fingers, the absolute destruction they'd caused. "She was always dramatic," Mom said during her testimony. "This is just another performance." The prosecutor's response was legendary. "Ma'am, your daughter played Chopin with 7 broken fingers. That's not drama. That's heroism you'll never understand." Juilliard offered me a full scholarship anyway. Delayed admission until my hands healed. 6 surgeries, 8 months of physical therapy, and slowly, my fingers remember how to be fingers again. They're not the same. They'll never be the same. Some movements are gone forever. Certain stretches impossible now. But I adapted. Found new fingerings, new ways to create the music that lives in my soul. I graduated from Juilliard last month. My senior recital was Chopin's Complete Ballades. When I played No. 1, I used my new fingerings, my adapted technique. It sounded different than it would have with unbroken hands, but maybe more honest, more mine. Mrs. Kobayashi was in the front row, crying. Dr. Martinez, too. The family I'd built from the ruins of the one I was born into. My hands still hurt sometimes, especially in cold weather. The scars are visible, thin white lines where the surgeries put me back together. But when I play, I don't hide them. They're part of my story, part of my sound. Dad wrote me once from prison a rambling letter about how I'd ruined his life. I sent him back a CD of my Juilliard senior recital. No note, just the music he tried to silence, played on the hands he tried to destroy. The piano in my apartment is a Steinway Model B, a gift from a foundation that heard my story. On the morning of every October 15th, the anniversary of that morning, I play Chopin's Ballade No. 1 at 5:00 a.m. Not softly, not with the practice pedal. Full volume, full power, letting the music fill the space, announcing to the world that I'm still here, still playing. My neighbors never complain. One of them told me she sets her alarm to wake up and listen, that it reminds her that humans can survive anything. Musicians don't need straight fingers. They need determination, passion, and the refusal to let anyone silence their song. My fingers are crooked now, scared and reconstructed, but they make music. Beautiful, powerful, defiant music. And that's the only revenge that matters. Living, playing, soaring despite everything they did to ground me. Every concert is a victory. Every note is an act of rebellion. They tried to break my hands to break my future, Instead, they forged me into something unbreakable, something that plays Chopin with bloody fingers and wins, something that turns pain into music and music into freedom. The security camera that recorded my destruction also recorded my resurrection, the moment I chose to play anyway. That footage exists beside the assault footage in court records, proof that sometimes the human spirit is stronger than human cruelty. My hands are my history now, broken, rebuilt, beautiful in their imperfection. When young pianists ask me for advice, I tell them technique matters, practice matters, but nothing matters more than refusing to let anyone steal your music. Even if they break your fingers, even if they tear your sheet music, even if they laugh while you bleed on the keys, play anyway. Play like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does.
The first time I saw the house, I knew it would destroy me. I just didn't know how. My name is Meredith, and I used to believe in fairy tales. The kind where you meet your Prince Charming, pool your resources, and build a life together. Where trust isn't a weapon, and love doesn't come with hidden fees. Look at those original hardwood floors, Caleb whispered, his arm sliding around my waist as we stepped into the foyer. The realtor had given us the keys for a private showing, and the afternoon light streaming through the stained glass windows made everything look magical. I was already gone, completely, hopelessly in love with every inch of the place. It's perfect, I breathed, running my fingers along the carved banister. It's like stepping back in time. 1924, Caleb said, consulting the listing sheet. Look at this crown moulding. And that fireplace? Original marble. The house was everything we'd dreamed about during those late-night conversations in our cramped apartment. Victorian architecture, wraparound porch, enough space for the family we talked about starting. It was also completely out of our price range. We can't afford this, I said, though my heart was already picking out where our furniture would go. Actually, Caleb turned to me with that smile that had made me fall for him 3 years ago. We might be able to, if we use your inheritance. My grandmother's money. The check had arrived just 2 weeks earlier, still sitting in my savings account like a safety net I'd never expected to need. $87,000. Not enough to buy the house outright, but enough for a substantial down payment. That money was meant for my future, I said carefully. Our future, he corrected, pulling me closer. This could be it, Ma, our dream home, where we raise our kids, grow old together. Your grandmother would want that for you, wouldn't she? The realtor appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. So, what do you think? I looked around one more time. At the built-in bookshelves, the window seat where I could imagine reading on Sunday mornings, the kitchen that begged for family dinners and holiday gatherings. We'll take it, I heard myself say. Caleb squeezed my hand. Really? Really? I turned to the realtor. What do we need to do? The next few weeks blurred together. Caleb handled everything. The paperwork, the mortgage applications, the endless phone calls with lawyers and loan officers. I was drowning in a major product launch at work, pulling 12-hour days and trusting my husband to navigate the maze of home buying. Just sign here, he'd say, sliding documents across our kitchen table. And here, initial there. I signed. I initialed. I transferred my entire inheritance to our joint account and watched it disappear into escrow. You're amazing for handling all this, I told him one evening, finding him hunched over his laptop with a stack of papers. That's what husbands are for, he said, not looking up. Besides, you're the one making this possible. This house is going to be incredible. Moving day came faster than I expected. I'd barely had time to pack properly, but Caleb assured me we could take our time settling in. The house felt enormous after our one-bedroom apartment, every footstep echoing in the empty rooms. I was unpacking boxes in what would be our home office when I found the first piece of mail. It had been shoved behind the built-in desk, probably left by the previous owners. Except it wasn't addressed to them. Andrea Fleming, I read aloud, turning the electric bill over in my hands. That's weird. What's weird? Caleb appeared in the doorway with a box labelled Kitchen Misc. This bill. It's addressed to someone named Andrea Fleming. At this address. He glanced at it and shrugged. Probably just a mailing error. You know how the post office is. I'll call them tomorrow and get it sorted out. I nodded, but something nagged at me. Fleming. That was Caleb's last name before I'd taken it. But Andrea? I'd never heard him mention anyone named Andrea. Is Andrea a relative of yours? I asked. Distant cousin, maybe? I don't keep track of all my mum's side of the family. He set down the box and took the bill from my hands. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The house creaked and settled around us, unfamiliar sounds in our new life. I told myself I was just being paranoid. New house jitters. But something felt off. The next morning, while Caleb was at work, I did something I'd never done before. I went to the county assessor's website and typed in our address. My coffee mug slipped from my hands and shattered on the hardwood floor. Owner, Andrea Fleming. Not Caleb Roberts. Not Meredith Roberts. Not even both our names together. Andrea Fleming owned the house I'd bought with my grandmother's money. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, refreshed the page, typed the address again. Same result. Andrea Fleming. Andrea Fleming. Andrea Fleming. My hand shook as I grabbed my phone and called Caleb. Hey babe, what's up? His voice was cheerful, normal, like he hadn't just stolen my entire inheritance. I'm looking at the county records, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There's been some kind of mistake with the deed. Silence. Then, what do you mean? It says Andrea Fleming owns our house. That's impossible. Let me call the title company. Probably just a clerical error that hasn't been updated yet. You know how slow government websites are. Caleb, who is Andrea Fleming? Another pause. I told you. Probably some distant relative. Look, I'm in a meeting. Let me handle this, okay? Don't stress about it. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen that had just destroyed my world. Don't stress about it. My husband had just told me not to stress about someone else owning the house I'd paid for. I called in sick to work, spent the day pacing our beautiful hardwood floors, trying to make sense of it. By evening, I'd convinced myself Caleb was right. Paperwork, mix-up. These things happened. Then, I remembered his tablet. Caleb always left it on the kitchen counter, charging overnight. I'd never snooped before, never had a reason to. But as I watched him sleep that night, snoring peacefully in our bed that sat in our room, in our house that apparently belonged to someone named Andrea Fleming, something cold settled in my chest. I crept to the kitchen at 2 a.m. His tablet was password protected, but I knew it. Our anniversary date. How romantic. I went straight to his messages. Recent conversations with his mum, his co-workers, his brother Jacob. Nothing unusual. Then I saw a thread with someone listed as A with messages from 3 days ago. She suspects nothing. Just a little longer and the house is ours. Good. Stick to the plan. 1 year, then file for divorce. She'll be too heartbroken to fight for anything. What if she finds out before then? She won't. She's too trusting. Always has been. I dropped the tablet. It clattered on the marble countertop loud enough to wake the dead, but somehow Caleb kept snoring. My legs gave out. I slid down the kitchen cabinets until I was sitting on the floor, staring at the screen that was still glowing with my husband's betrayal. 1 year, then divorce. I grabbed the tablet again, scrolling frantically through older messages. The conversation went back months, before we'd even found the house. Found the perfect place. Victorian, great neighbourhood. She'll fall in love with it. Perfect. Make sure everything goes through my name. We can't risk her having any legal claim. Already handled. She trusts me completely. She always was naive, just like her mother. My mother. They were talking about my mother. How did Andrea even know about my mother? I kept scrolling, my heart hammering so hard I was sure it would wake Caleb. Then I found the smoking gun. A message from 6 months ago. Divorce attorney consultation scheduled for next week. Want to make sure we have everything lined up perfectly. 6 months ago. We'd been married for 2 years, talking about starting a family, and he was already planning to leave me. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my personal email, deleted the sent messages from his account. Then I sat in my kitchen, Andrea's kitchen, and planned my next move. The smart thing would be to confront him, demand answers, file for divorce immediately, and try to recover what I could. But I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling dangerous. The next morning, I made Caleb his favourite breakfast, pancakes with fresh berries, the way his mum used to make them. "You're up early," he said, kissing my cheek as he sat down. "Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the house thing." He tensed slightly. "I told you I'll handle it. I know. I trust you." The words tasted like poison. I was thinking, maybe I should meet Andrea Fleming, though. If she's family, I should introduce myself. "That's not necessary. I'll sort everything out." "But I'd like to meet your family. We've been married 2 years, and I still haven't met your mum's side." "They're not really the social type." I smiled and poured him more coffee. "Well, when you talk to the title company today, maybe ask for Andrea's contact information. I could send her a nice card, explain the mix-up." "Meredith." His voice had an edge now. "Drop it. I said I'll handle it." "Of course." I kissed the top of his head. "I love you." "Love you too." He left for work 20 minutes later. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner, then called my co-worker Sella. "I need a favour," I said when she answered, "and it's going to sound crazy." "I live for crazy, what's up?" "Can you help me recover deleted text messages?" "Whose phone?" "My husband's." Silence, then, "Girl, what did you find?" "Everything." Sella arrived at my house 30 minutes later, with a laptop bag and a grim expression. "Show me what you found," she said, settling at my kitchen table. I pulled up the screenshots on my phone, watched her face change as she read through the messages. "Holy shit, Meredith. Yeah, this is fraud. Like, serious fraud." She looked up at me. "What do you want to do?" "I want to destroy them." She nodded slowly. "Okay, let's start with data recovery. If he deleted older messages, I might be able to get them back." Sella worked while I paced. Within an hour, she'd recovered months of deleted conversations between Caleb and A. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "From 8 months ago, the inheritance money came through. 87,000. Perfect. That'll cover the down payment and closing costs. She'll never suspect if we move fast." "You're sure she won't check the deed?" "She's too busy with work. Besides, she trusts me completely. Always has. Just like her pathetic mother trusted her father. Some women never learn." I stopped pacing. "What did that last message say?" Sella read it again. "Something about your mother and father. My parents divorced when I was 12. My father left us with nothing, and my mother spent years struggling to rebuild." I'd told Caleb that story once, during one of our late-night talks when we were dating. He'd held me while I cried about feeling abandoned. Now he was using it against me. "Keep going," I said. More messages appeared, plans stretching back almost a year. Details about the house hunt, the mortgage application, even conversations about how to keep me distracted during closing. "Wait," Sella said, "look at this timestamp. This message is from yesterday." "She's getting suspicious about the deed. asking questions. Stick to the story, clerical error, I'll handle the title company. What if she digs deeper? She won't, but if she does, we accelerate the timeline. File next month instead of waiting the full year. Next month? I grabbed the back of a chair. They're planning to divorce me next month? Looks like it. Seller kept scrolling. Oh, this is interesting. There's a whole thread about your friend Jolie. Jolie? What about her? Apparently, she's been reporting back to Caleb about your moods, your conversations, whether you seem suspicious. I felt sick. Jolie had been my friend since college. We had lunch every week, shared everything. Here, Seller pointed to a message from 3 days ago. Jolie says you seemed off at lunch on Tuesday. Asked if you were having marriage problems. I mentioned feeling disconnected from Caleb lately. I thought I was confiding in a friend. She's been feeding him information for months. The betrayal kept multiplying. My husband, his mother, my best friend. How many people were in on this? There's more, Seller said quietly. Financial records. Looks like Andrea has been planning to sell the house as soon as the divorce is final. Sell it? Already has a realtor lined up. The plan was to split the profits with Caleb after you're out of the picture. I sank into a chair. They weren't just stealing my money. They were stealing my dreams, my future, my home. Then they were going to sell it and profit from my heartbreak. What do? I asked. First, we document everything. Screenshots, printed copies, backup files. Salah was already typing. Then you need a lawyer, a good one. I can't afford a good lawyer. They have my money. You can afford one consultation, and if this is as bad as it looks, any decent attorney will take this case. The fraud is so blatant, you'll recover damages. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. Talked to title company. Just a computer glitch. Should be fixed by next week. Don't worry about it. I showed Seller the message. He's lying, she said. I know. I typed back. Thank you for handling it. I love you. You're not going to confront him? Not yet. If I tip him off now, they'll accelerate their plan. I need time to build a case. So what's the play? I looked around the kitchen. My kitchen. The one I'd paid for with my grandmother's money while my husband and his mother laughed behind my back. I'm going to be the perfect wife, I said. Loving, trusting, completely clueless, while I gather every piece of evidence I can find. That's going to be hard, pretending everything's normal. I've been doing it for 2 years, apparently. What's a few more weeks? Seller packed up her laptop. I'll keep digging from my end, see what else I can recover. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly. After she left, I sat alone in the house that wasn't mine, planning my revenge. Caleb thought I was naive like my mother, trusting, easy to manipulate. He was about to learn how wrong he was. My phone rang. Caleb's name on the screen. Hey, babe, I answered, injecting warmth into my voice. Just wanted to check on you. You seemed stressed this morning. I'm fine. Just excited about our new life together. Me too. I love you. I love you too, I lied, but I was getting very good at lying. The law office smelled like leather and expensive coffee. Quinn Erickson looked exactly like what I'd hoped for in a fraud attorney. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a handshake that said she didn't lose cases. Walk me through it from the beginning, she said, settling behind her mahogany desk. I laid out everything. The inheritance, the house purchase, the county record showing Andrea as owner. Then I showed her the recovered text messages. Quinn's expression didn't change as she read, but I caught her jaw tighten. This is textbook fraud, she said finally. Conversion of funds, conspiracy, possibly RICO violations if we can prove ongoing criminal enterprise. Can you get my money back? I can get you a lot more than your money back. We're talking punitive damages, attorney fees, possibly criminal charges. She leaned forward. But I need you to understand something. Once we file, there's no going back. Your marriage is over. My marriage was over the day he decided to steal from me. Fair enough. I'll need 2 weeks to build the case properly. Can you maintain the facade that long? I've been doing it for 3 days already. Good. Don't change anything. Act normal. Be the loving wife. Let them think they're winning. I left Quinn's office feeling lighter than I had in days. For the first time since finding those messages, I had hope. That evening, Caleb came home with flowers. What's the occasion? I asked, arranging them in a vase. Do I need an occasion to buy my wife flowers? He kissed my cheek. I know you've been stressed about the house thing. Thought these might cheer you up. They're beautiful, thank you. Actually, I have some good news. My mom wants to meet you. I nearly dropped the vase. Your mom? I know, I've been putting it off. But she's been asking about you, and I figured it's time. I'd love to meet her. The words came out steady, but my heart was racing. When? This weekend. Family barbecue at Jacob's place. Nothing fancy, just burgers and beer. Jacob, Caleb's younger brother. I'd met him exactly twice in 2 years of marriage, both times briefly at weddings. He'd seemed nice enough, but distant. Will Andrea be there? I asked carefully. Caleb paused, a beer halfway to his lips. Andrea? From the deed mix-up, you said she might be family. Oh, right. No, she won't be there. Different side of the family. Another lie. I was keeping count now. Saturday came too fast. I spent an hour getting ready, choosing an outfit that said, perfect daughter-in-law, sundress, cardigan, minimal makeup. Caleb seemed nervous on the drive over, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Just be yourself, he said as we pulled into Jacob's driveway. Mom can be a little intense, but she'll love you. Jacob's house was smaller than ours, but well maintained. He answered the door wearing a Brewers jersey and a cautious smile. Meredith, he said, giving me a brief hug. Good to see you again. Thanks for having us. Mom's in the backyard, he told Caleb. Fair warning, she's already 3 beers in. We walked through the house to a small patio where a woman in her 50s stood flipping burgers. She had Caleb's dark hair, streaked with grey, and sharp blue eyes that assessed me immediately. So you're the famous Meredith, she said, not moving to hug me. I'm Andrea. The world tilted. Andrea, not some distant cousin or clerical error. Caleb's mother was Andrea Fleming, the woman who owned my house. It's so nice to finally meet you, I managed, and likewise. Her smile was cold. Caleb has told me so much about you. I bet he had. Dinner was excruciating. Andrea asked pointed questions about my job, my family, my plans for the future. Caleb kept shooting her warning looks, but she ignored them. So the house is working out well? She asked over dessert. It's perfect, I said. We're so grateful we could afford it. Caleb mentioned you used inheritance money. My grandmother left me some money, yes. It felt right to use it for our future together. Andrea nodded. Family money should stay in the family. Jacob had been quiet most of the evening, but I caught him watching me with an odd expression. When Caleb and Andrea went inside to get more beer, he moved closer. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Sure. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? With Caleb? With the marriage? You seem, I don't know, tense. I forced a laugh. Just tired. Work's been crazy. He nodded, but his eyes stayed on mine. If you ever need someone to talk to, someone outside the situation, I'm here. Thank you. That's very kind. I mean it. He glanced toward the house, then back to me. Sometimes family loyalty isn't the most important thing. Before I could respond, Caleb and Andrea returned. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced conversation and fake smiles. On the drive home, Caleb was unusually quiet. "Your mum seems nice," I lied. "She liked you." "How could you tell?" "She didn't insult you to your face. That's practically a warm welcome from her." I laughed, but my mind was spinning. Andrea Fleming wasn't some stranger who'd accidentally ended up on our deed. She was Caleb's mother, and she'd been part of the plan from the beginning. "Jacob seemed different tonight," I said. "Different how?" "I don't know. More attentive." Caleb's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Jacob's always been weird around family stuff. Don't read too much into it." But I was reading everything now. Every word, every glance, every hesitation, and Jacob's offer to talk was starting to look very interesting. I waited 3 days before texting Jacob. "Thanks again for dinner. Would love to grab coffee sometime and chat more." His response came within minutes. "How about tomorrow? Brew House on 5th Street, 2 p.m? I arrived early, choosing a corner table where we could talk privately. Jacob showed up exactly on time, looking nervous. "Thanks for meeting me," I said as he sat down. "Of course." He ordered black coffee, fidgeted with the sugar packets. "So, what did you want to chat about?" "You asked if I was happy the other night." "Right. Why did you ask that?" Jacob was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. "Can I ask you something first? Do you know who owns your house?" My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. "What do you mean?" "The deed. Have you looked at the deed?" "Jacob, what's going on?" He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then set it on the table between us. It was a recording app. "I need to show you something," he said, "but first, I need you to promise me you won't tell Caleb we talked." "Why?" "Because what I'm about to tell you will probably end your marriage. And if Caleb finds out I was the one who told you, it'll end my relationship with my family too." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" He pressed play on the recording. Andrea's voice filled the space between us. "She signed everything without even reading it, just like you said she would." Caleb's laugh. "I told you she was trusting. Makes this whole thing so much easier." "When do you file for divorce?" "Soon, maybe next month. I want to make sure all the assets are properly protected first." "And she'll get nothing?" "Nothing. The house is in your name. The joint accounts will be emptied before I file. She'll be left with whatever's in her personal checking account." "Perfect. She deserves it for being so stupid." Jacob stopped the recording. I sat there, frozen. "I recorded this 3 weeks ago," he said quietly, "at Mum's house. They didn't know I was there." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you seem like a good person, and what they're doing is wrong." He leaned forward. "Meredith, they've been planning this for over a year. The whole marriage was a setup." "What do you mean?" "Caleb found out about your inheritance before he proposed. Mum has connections at the probate court. They knew exactly how much money you were getting." The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. "You're saying he married me for my money?" "I'm saying he married you to steal your money. There's a difference." I thought about our wedding day. How happy I'd been. How perfect everything seemed. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I hoped I was wrong. And because..." He ran a hand through his hair. "Because turning against family isn't easy. But watching them destroy you isn't easy either." "There's more, isn't there?" Jacob nodded. "The house isn't the only thing. Caleb's been moving money out of your joint accounts. Small amounts so you wouldn't notice. It's all going into an account only he and Mum can access." "How much?" "About 15,000 so far." I felt sick. What else? Your friend Jolie. She's not just reporting back to Caleb. She's his backup plan. What do you mean? If you get suspicious before the divorce, Caleb's going to claim you're having a mental breakdown. Jolie's been documenting everything you say, building a case that you're unstable, paranoid. They want to make you look crazy so no one will believe you when you try to fight back. The pieces clicked together. Jolie's concerned questions lately, her suggestions that I seemed stressed and not myself, the way she'd been pushing me to see a therapist. They're going to have me committed, not committed, but they want to establish a pattern of mental instability. Makes it easier to contest any legal challenges you might bring. I stood up abruptly. I need to go. Meredith, wait. Jacob grabbed my arm gently. I have more recordings, financial documents, emails between Caleb and his divorce attorney. Whatever you're planning to do, I want to help. Why? Because they're my family. But that doesn't make what they're doing right. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Everything's on here. Bank records, recorded conversations, even some video footage from Mum's security cameras. I took the drive with shaking hands. Jacob, if they find out you gave me this. They won't. As far as they know, I'm the loyal son who keeps his mouth shut. What do you want in return? Nothing. Just, when this is over, don't disappear completely. You're the best thing that ever happened to this family, even if they're too stupid to see it. I walked to my car in a daze, sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the flash drive. Everything I needed to destroy them was right there in my hands. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Another lie. But this time, I had proof. I drove home to the house that wasn't mine, made dinner for the husband who was planning to leave me, and smiled when he called to say he'd be even later than expected. Then, I plugged in Jacob's flash drive and started planning their destruction. The recordings were damning. The financial documents were worse. But the emails between Caleb and his attorney were the smoking gun I needed. They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to frame me as mentally unstable, take everything I had and leave me with nothing. Too bad for them, I wasn't the naive little girl they thought I was. I was about to become their worst nightmare. Quinn's office felt different this time, more like a war room than a law office. This changes everything, she said, reviewing Jacob's evidence. With these recordings and financial documents, we're not just talking about fraud anymore. This is conspiracy, elder abuse of trust, potentially racketeering. What does that mean for me? It means you're going to get everything back, plus punitive damages that will make their heads spin. She leaned back in her chair. But I want to do this right. Maximum impact. What do you have in mind? Public humiliation combined with legal devastation. They want to play games? Let's play games. Quinn pulled out a calendar. I see here that Andrea's throwing a housewarming party next weekend. My blood ran cold. How do you know about that? Social media. Your friend Jolie posted about it. Celebrating Andrea's beautiful new home. Quinn's smile was predatory. Perfect opportunity. You want to serve them at the party? I want to destroy them at the party, in front of all their friends and family. Let everyone see exactly who they really are. The plan was brilliant and terrifying. We'd file the lawsuit Friday afternoon, then have the sheriff serve them Saturday evening during the party. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. What do I need to do? Keep playing the loving wife. Accept the party invitation. Act excited about celebrating Andrea's new home. Quinn's air quotes dripped sarcasm. And when the time comes, let them hang themselves. I left her office with a mixture of excitement and terror. 1 week. In 1 week, my entire life would explode. That evening, Caleb came home with Chinese takeout and a guilty expression. "I have something to tell you," he said, setting the food on our kitchen counter. My heart stopped. Did he know about Jacob? About Quinn? "Mum's having a housewarming party this weekend. For the new house." New house? She bought a place a few months ago. Finally, ready to show it off. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I know it's short notice, but she really wants you there." "Of course I'll be there. I'd love to see her new place." "Great." He kissed my forehead. "You're amazing, you know that." "So are you," I lied. The next few days crawled by. I played my part perfectly, excited about the party, asking what I should bring, what I should wear. Caleb seemed relieved by my enthusiasm. "Mum's really excited you're coming," he said Thursday night. "She's been planning this for weeks." I bet she has. Friday afternoon, Quinn called. "It's done. Lawsuit filed, sheriff's department notified. They'll serve the papers tomorrow at 7 p.m. What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong. Just stick to the plan. Saturday arrived grey and drizzly. I spent the morning cleaning our house, Andrea's house, and trying not to throw up from nerves. Caleb was unusually attentive, bringing me coffee, asking if I needed help getting ready. "You seem nervous," I said. "Just want everything to go well tonight. Mum's been looking forward to this." I'm sure she has. We arrived at the party at 6:30. Andrea's new house was actually our house, the one I'd paid for with my grandmother's money. She decorated it beautifully, filled it with flowers and candles, and all the touches that made it look like a real home. "Meredith," Andrea greeted me with fake warmth. "So glad you could make it." "Thank you for having me. The house is absolutely beautiful." "Isn't it? I've been dreaming of this place for years." "I bet you have." The party was in full swing by 7 p.m. About 30 people milled around, drinking wine and admiring Andrea's new home. I recognised several faces from Caleb's social media, co-workers, family friends, distant relatives. Jolie appeared at my elbow with a glass of wine. "Isn't this amazing? Andrea has such great taste." "She certainly does." "You seem a little tense. Everything okay?" "Just tired. Long week at work." Jolie nodded sympathetically. "You've seemed stressed lately. Maybe you should talk to someone. I know a great therapist." There it was, the setup Jacob had warned me about. "That's very thoughtful," I said. "I'll consider it." At exactly 7:15, there was a knock at the door. Andrea looked puzzled. All her guests were already here. "I'll get it," Caleb said, but I was already moving. "Let me," I said brightly. "I'm closer." I opened the door to find a sheriff's deputy in full uniform, holding an official-looking envelope. "I'm looking for Andrea Fleming and Caleb Fleming," he said loudly enough for the entire party to hear. The room went silent. Every conversation stopped. "That's my mother-in-law and my husband," I said, stepping aside. "Please, come in." Andrea appeared, her face pale. "What's this about?" "Mom, I have legal documents for you and your son." The deputy's voice carried across the silent room. "You're being served with a civil lawsuit for fraud, conspiracy, and conversion of funds." Gasps echoed through the house. Someone's wine glass hit the floor. "There must be some mistake," Caleb said, but his voice was shaking. "No mistake, sir." The deputy handed them each an envelope. "You're also being served with a lien notice. This property is now under court protection pending resolution of the lawsuit." Andrea tore open her envelope, her hands trembling. As she read, her face went from pale to grey. "This is ridiculous," she said, but her voice was barely a whisper. I stepped forward, my own voice clear and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I think you should know the truth about this beautiful house you're celebrating tonight." Every eye in the room was on me. This house was purchased entirely with my inheritance money, $87,000 from my grandmother. But somehow the deed ended up in Andrea's name instead of mine and my husband's. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. People started recording. It turns out, I continued, my voice getting stronger, that my loving husband and devoted mother-in-law have been planning to steal my inheritance and divorce me for over a year. They thought I was too stupid and trusting to figure it out. Caleb stepped toward me. Meredith, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I pulled out my phone and played one of Jacob's recordings. Andrea's voice filled the room. She signed everything without even reading it, just like you said she would. The silence was deafening. They were wrong about one thing, though, I said, looking directly at Caleb. I'm not my mother, and I don't forgive people who betray me. I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final shot. Enjoy your housewarming party. I hope you remember this night for the rest of your lives. The silence shattered like glass. You're lying, Andrea screamed, lunging toward me. This is my house. I bought it. With my money, I said calmly, every penny of it. The deputy stepped between us. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. But Andrea was beyond calm. She's having a breakdown, can't you see? She's delusional. Actually, I pulled out a folder I'd been carrying. I have bank records showing the exact transfer of $87,000 from my personal account to escrow. Would you like to see them? I held up the papers for everyone to see. Here's the wire transfer, here's the escrow statement, and here's the deed showing Andrea as owner of a house she never paid for. Caleb grabbed my arm. Meredith, you need to stop this right now. Don't touch me. My voice cut through the room like a blade. Don't you ever touch me again. He dropped his hand like I'd burned him. This is insane, Jolie said, pushing through the crowd. Meredith, you're scaring people. You need help. Do I? I turned to face her. Tell me, Jolie, how long have you been reporting my conversations back to my husband? Her face went white. What are you talking about? Every lunch we've had for the past 6 months, every time I mentioned feeling disconnected from Caleb, every concern I shared with you as a friend. I pulled out my phone again. Should I play the recording where you and Caleb discuss my mental state? You're recording people, someone whispered. I'm not, but apparently my husband and his mother have been recording everything for over a year. I looked around the room. Would you like to hear them planning my divorce? Discussing how to steal my money? Laughing about how stupid and trusting I am? Stop, Caleb said desperately. Please, just stop. Why? Embarrassed? You weren't embarrassed when you were stealing from me. An older woman I didn't recognize stepped forward. Are you saying they stole your inheritance? I'm saying they conspired to defraud me of $87,000. They manipulated me into using my grandmother's money to buy this house, then put the deed in Andrea's name so I'd have no legal claim to it. That's fraud, someone else said. Yes, it is, I smiled. Which is why I filed a civil lawsuit for fraud, conspiracy, conversion of funds, and emotional distress. The lien on this house means they can't sell it, refinance it, or transfer ownership until the case is resolved. Andrea's face was purple now. You vindictive little bitch, after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, besides steal my money and plan to destroy my life? We gave you a family, a home. You gave me nothing. I paid for everything. I gestured around the room. This house, this party, probably even the wine you're all drinking, all bought with my grandmother's money. The crowd was murmuring now, phones still recording. I could see the shock and disgust on their faces as the reality sank in. Jacob appeared in the doorway, surveying the chaos. His eyes met mine across the room, and he nodded slightly. There's more? I announced. Should I tell them about the secret bank account? The $15,000 you've been stealing from our joint accounts? Or maybe about the divorce attorney you've been consulting with for 6 months? How do you know about that? Caleb's voice was barely a whisper. Because I'm not as stupid as you thought I was. The deputy cleared his throat. Folks, I need to finish serving these papers. The court has also issued a restraining order. Mr. Fleming, you're not allowed within 500 feet of the plaintiff. She's my wife. Not for much longer, I said. I filed for divorce yesterday. You'll be served with those papers on Monday. Caleb stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Meredith, we can work this out. We can talk about this. Talk about what? How you married me for my money. How you and your mother planned to steal everything and leave me with nothing. How you were going to have me declared mentally unstable so no one would believe me. Gasps echoed through the room. Several people started backing toward the door. That's not true, Caleb said weakly. Should I play that recording too? You're destroying our lives, Andrea hissed. No, I said, walking toward the door. You destroyed your own lives when you decided to steal from me. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are. I paused at the threshold and turned back one last time. By the way, the story's already gone viral. Someone posted the video on social media about 10 minutes ago. Last I checked, it had 50,000 views. Andrea let out a sound like a wounded animal. Oh, and Caleb? I smiled sweetly. You might want to call your boss on Monday. I sent copies of all the evidence to your compliance department. Turns out financial advisors who commit fraud tend to lose their licenses. I walked out into the night air, leaving behind the chaos I'd created. Behind me, I could hear shouting, crying, the sound of people fleeing the party. My phone was already buzzing with notifications, text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. But for the first time in months, I felt free. They'd built their house of lies with my money. Now I'd burned it down with the truth. The courthouse steps were cold under my feet as I walked down them for the final time. Quinn walked beside me, briefcase in hand, looking satisfied. Congratulations, she said. Full restitution, punitive damages, and they're both facing criminal charges. That's about as complete a victory as you can get. What happens now? Now, you rebuild your life with $200,000 instead of the $87,000 they stole. The house reverts to you. Caleb's assets are frozen until he pays his portion of the judgment. And Andrea... Quinn smiled. Andrea gets to explain to the IRS why she didn't report the fraudulent income. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Can we talk? Jacob? I showed Quinn the message. You're cool, she said, but remember, he's the reason we had enough evidence to win. I typed back, coffee shop on 5th Street, 1 hour. Jacob was already there when I arrived, sitting in the same corner booth where he'd first played me those recordings. He looked tired, older somehow. How are you holding up? I asked, sliding into the seat across from him. I've been better. Mum's not speaking to me. Caleb threatened to have me arrested for theft. For giving me evidence of their crimes? Family loyalty is complicated. He stirred his coffee absently. But I don't regret it. What they did was wrong. What are you going to do now? Start over, I guess. Maybe move out of state. Fresh start. He looked up at me. What about you? Same thing. Fresh start. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Jacob reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This came to my house yesterday, he said, sliding it across the table. Addressed to you. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Caleb's. I don't want to read it. You should, for closure. I opened the envelope reluctantly. The letter was short, written on legal pad paper in Caleb's familiar scrawl. Meredith, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't expect you to. What we did was wrong. I told myself it was just business, that you'd never find out, that everyone would be happy in the end. I was lying to myself as much as to you. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. I'm sorry. Caleb. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Feel better? Jacob asked. No, but it's something, I guess. He really did love you, in his own twisted way. Love doesn't steal from you. Love doesn't lie to you for 2 years. Love doesn't plan to destroy your life for money. Jacob nodded. You're right. I just thought you should know he's not completely heartless. Just mostly heartless? Yeah, mostly. I finished my coffee and stood to leave. Take care of yourself, Jacob. And thank you for everything. Thank you for not destroying me along with them. You were the only honest one in the family. Why would I destroy you? I walked home to my apartment, my real apartment, the one I'd kept throughout the marriage as a safety net I'd never expected to need. It was small, cramped, nothing like the dream house I'd lost and won back. But it was mine. Truly, completely mine. My phone rang. Seller's name on the screen. How did it go? She asked. Complete victory. They're both broke and facing criminal charges. Good. They deserved worse. Maybe. But this feels like enough. So, what's next? You moving back into the house? I looked around my tiny apartment, at the mismatched furniture, the stack of takeout menus, the single window that faced a brick wall. No, I said. I'm selling it. Really? That house was never about the house. It was about the dream of a life with someone I thought I could trust. That dream is dead. I don't want to live in its grave. Smart. Fresh start. Exactly. We hung up and I sat alone in my apartment thinking about the future. The real estate market was good. The house would sell quickly, probably for more than I'd originally paid. With the lawsuit settlement and the sale proceeds, I'd have enough money to go anywhere. Do anything. For the first time in 2 years, my life was completely my own. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find a delivery driver holding a small package. Meredith Roberts? That's me. He handed me the package and left. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting on the label. Andrea's. Inside was a single item. The spare key to the house. The one I'd given them for emergencies. No note, no explanation. I held the key for a moment, feeling its weight. Then I walked to my kitchen, opened the trash can, and dropped it in. They'd built their scheme with my money and my trust. I'd built my future with their shame and my strength. The key hit the bottom of the trash with a satisfying clink. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way forever.
The photo showed up on my Facebook feed at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I screenshot it, and the timestamp is burned into my phone's memory like a scar. My name is Serenity, and I've been keeping track of moments like these my whole life. Not because I'm petty, well, maybe a little, but because when you're the forgotten daughter, you learn to document your own erasure. The photo was innocent enough. My mother Evelyn had posted it with the caption, "Beautiful day at the zoo with our favorite people." There she was, beaming next to my father Jarvis, my sister Kira, and Kira's 3-year-old daughter Addison. They were standing in front of the elephant exhibit, cotton candy in hand, looking like the picture-perfect family they'd always been. Without me. "Weston," I called to my husband, who was in the kitchen warming up a bottle for our 6-month-old son Jolie. "Come look at this." He walked over, still holding the bottle, and peered at my phone screen. His jaw tightened. "When was this taken?" "Today, apparently." I scrolled through the comments. Kira had already chimed in. "Best impromptu family day ever. Some people just know how to make memories happen." The knife twisted deeper when I saw my mother's reply. "We're so blessed to have family who can just go with the flow." Weston sat down beside me on the couch. "Didn't you call your mom yesterday?" I had. I'd called her at 9 a.m., practically begging. "Mom, I have that follow-up appointment with Dr. Martinez tomorrow. The one about my anxiety medication? Weston can't get off work, and I really can't bring Jolie to a psychiatric appointment. Could you maybe watch him for 2 hours?" Her voice had been clipped, distracted. "Oh, honey, I wish I could, but I have so many errands to run. You know how it is. Maybe ask one of your friends?" Friends. As if I had a village of people lined up to help with my colicky baby while I figured out why I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop the racing thoughts that told me I was failing at everything. "It's just 2 hours, Mom." "Serenity, I really can't. I'm sorry, maybe reschedule?" I'd hung up feeling smaller than I had in years, rescheduled the appointment, spent the day bouncing a crying baby while wondering if other new mothers felt this alone. Now, staring at their zoo adventure, I felt something shift inside my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that too many times to mistake it for anything else. This was colder, sharper. "Look at the timestamp," I said, showing Weston the photo details. "Posted at 2:30 p.m. They've been there for hours." I scrolled back through my mother's recent posts. There was one from this morning. "Sometimes the best plans are no plans at all. She planned this," I whispered. Weston's hand found mine. "Babe?" "No, look, really look." I pulled up Kira's Instagram stories. There were at least 12 posts from their day. The first one was timestamped 10:15 a.m. She told me she had errands. Errands, Weston, while she was literally driving to pick up Kira and Addison for a family zoo trip. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Hope you had a good day, sweetheart. We missed you at the zoo. It was so last minute." I stared at the message until the words blurred. "What are you going to say?" Weston asked. I typed and deleted 3 different responses. Finally, I settled on, "Looked fun. Wish I'd known about it." Her reply came instantly. "You know how these things happen. Kira just called and said Addison was having a meltdown, so we thought a change of scenery might help. You understand?" I understood perfectly. I understood that when Kira's daughter had a bad day, it warranted an immediate family intervention. When I had a bad day, when I had a bad month, I got told to reschedule my therapy. I understood that last minute meant they'd planned this while I was on the phone begging for help. I understood that I would always be the afterthought, the inconvenience, the daughter who should just figure it out on her own. Jolie started crying from his bouncer, and I picked him up, inhaling that sweet baby smell that usually calmed me. Today, it just reminded me that he'd never know the grandparents who lived 20 minutes away, but might as well have been on another planet. "I'm done," I said quietly. "Done with what?" I looked at Weston, then down at our son. Done pretending this is normal. Done making excuses for them. Done being surprised when they choose everyone else. It wasn't the moment I broke, but I marked it. Revenge isn't a scream. It's a whisper that waits. 3 weeks later, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office clutching a tissue box like a lifeline. The racing thoughts, the constant worry about Jolie's breathing, the inability to sleep even when he's sleeping, these are all classic symptoms of postpartum anxiety, she said gently. The good news is it's very treatable. So I'm not losing my mind? You're not losing your mind. You're a new mother whose brain is working overtime to protect your baby. But we need to get you some support. She leaned forward. Do you have family nearby who can help? I laughed, but it came out hollow. That's complicated. Support systems are crucial during this time. Even just having someone watch the baby for a few hours so you can shower, nap, or go for a walk can make a huge difference. I nodded, already knowing what I had to do, what I'd been avoiding. That evening, after Weston got home from work, I made the call. My hands were shaking as I dialed. Hi, Mom. Serenity, how are you, sweetheart? I'm struggling. The words felt like glass in my throat. I saw a doctor today about some anxiety I've been having since Jolie was born, and she said I need more support. I was wondering, oh, anxiety? Honey, that's just new mom nerves. I remember feeling overwhelmed with you girls too. It passes. Mom, this is more than that. I'm not sleeping. I can barely function some days. I really need help. Silence stretched between us. What kind of help? Maybe you and Dad could come over this weekend? Just for a day or two? Help with Jolie so I can rest, maybe meal prep, just be here? This weekend? Her tone shifted. Oh, sweetie, we can't this weekend. We're actually taking Kira and Addison on a little getaway. My stomach dropped. A getaway? Yes, we booked this lovely cruise, 7 days in the Caribbean. Kira's been so stressed with Cody working late, and we thought Addison would love the kids' club on the ship. A cruise. I repeated the words like I was learning a foreign language. It was kind of last minute, but you know how these deals pop up. We leave Friday. How much did that cost? Well, it wasn't cheap, but family is worth it, right? Kira deserves a break. I closed my eyes. And what about me? Don't I deserve a break? Of course you do, honey, but this is different. Kira has a toddler, and you know how demanding Addison can be. Plus, you have Weston to help. Weston works 60 hours a week, Mom. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're so capable, Serenity. You always have been. Dad's voice came through in the background. Tell her she needs to toughen up. Maybe act like her sister for once. The words hit me like a physical blow. I heard Mom shush him, but the damage was done. I have to go, I whispered. Serenity, don't be dramatic. We'll help when we get back, okay? It's just a week. I hung up without saying goodbye. Weston found me an hour later, sitting in our dark kitchen at 3 a.m. with Jolie crying in my arms. I was crying too, but silently, the tears just streaming down my face. Babe, what happened? They're taking Kira on a cruise. My voice was flat, emotionless. 7 days in the Caribbean. Kids club for Addison. The works. What did they say when you asked for help? That I need to toughen up. That I should act like my sister for once. Weston sat down across from me, his face hard. They said that to you? While you're dealing with postpartum anxiety? My dad did. Mom just agreed. Jolie's cries intensified, and I bounced him mechanically. Nothing I did seemed to help anymore. Nothing anyone did seemed to help. How much do you think that cruise cost? I asked. Probably $4,000 or $5,000, maybe more. They have $4,000 for Kira's stress relief, but they can't spare a weekend to help their other daughter who's literally falling apart. Weston reached across the table and took my free hand. I'm so sorry. I'm done asking them for anything. I looked down at Jolie, who had finally quieted against my chest. I'm done expecting them to care. I walked to the living room and grabbed my phone. One by one, I left every family group chat. The Ross family updates chat where Mom shared photos. The Sunday dinner plans chat that I was rarely included in anyway. The grandkids chat where 90% of the photos were of Addison. Each time I hit leave group, I felt a little lighter. What are you doing? Weston asked. If they won't be my village, I'll build my own. The last notification I deleted was from Kira's Instagram story. A boomerang of her packing designer swimsuits with the caption, Cruise mode activated. Joshter blessed Josht family time. I turned off my phone and looked at my husband holding our son. We're going to be okay, I said. For the first time in weeks, I meant it. 1 year later, I was flipping pancakes on a Saturday morning when Jolie toddled into the kitchen, babbling happily. He was walking now, 16 months old and fearless. Mama! Nana! Yes, baby, Nana Rachel is coming today. I scooped him up and spun him around, making him giggle. The doorbell rang right on schedule. Weston's parents never missed our Saturday tradition. There are my favorite people, Rachel burst through the door with her arms full of grocery bags, followed by Daryl carrying a toolbox. "You didn't have to bring food again," I said, but I was smiling. "Nonsense. I'm making my famous blueberry muffins with this little guy." She swooped Jolie into her arms. "Aren't I, sweet boy?" "And I'm fixing that squeaky door upstairs," Daryl announced. "Been bothering me for weeks." This was how it had been since I'd started going to the new mom support group at the community center. Rachel had been volunteering there, helping with childcare during meetings, when she overheard me mention that my in-laws lived across the country. "Well, that's ridiculous," she'd said afterward. "You live 20 minutes from us. We're your family now." And just like that, we were. "How was group this week?" Rachel asked, settling Jolie in his high chair with some banana pieces. "Good. Sarah's baby is finally sleeping through the night and Maya got approved for that part-time position she wanted." "And how are you doing?" "Better, really better." I poured batter into the pan. "Dr. Martinez says the medication is working well, and having you guys, it makes all the difference." Rachel squeezed my shoulder. "That's what family does." The word hit differently now. Family wasn't the people who shared your DNA and then disappeared when you needed them. Family was Rachel teaching Jolie to clap his hands. Family was Daryl showing up every weekend with his toolbox, quietly fixing things around our house. Family was the group of women who met every Thursday and celebrated each other's small victories. "Oh, I brought the photo album from last weekend," Rachel said, pulling out her phone. "The pictures from the park turned out beautiful." We'd started doing monthly photo sessions. Nothing fancy, just documenting Jolie's milestones. Rachel had suggested it after I mentioned that I barely had any pictures of myself with him. "Look at this one," she said, showing me a photo of Jolie and me on the swing set. He was laughing, his chubby hands reaching for the camera, and I looked happy, genuinely happy. "I love it. I'm making you a scrapbook. Every month we'll add new pages." My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized it immediately. My mother had gotten a new phone. "Just checking in. Hope you and the baby are okay. We miss you." I stared at the message for a long moment, then set the phone face down. "Everything all right?" Rachel asked. "Just spam." Upstairs, Daryl's drill whirred as he worked on the door. The sound mixed with Jolie's happy babbling and the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle. It was domestic and perfect, and everything I'd never had growing up. "Serenity," Rachel said carefully. "I hope you know you can talk to me about anything. I know things with your parents are complicated." I flipped a pancake, watching it land perfectly golden. "They made their choice a long time ago. I'm just finally accepting it." "That must be hard." It was, but look around. I gestured to our kitchen where Jolie was smearing banana on his tray while Rachel laughed and wiped his face. "This is better than anything I ever had with them." My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from Instagram. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Kira had posted a story. The first slide was a photo of Addison having what looked like a complete meltdown in a grocery store, with the caption, "When you're doing this alone, just single-parent life, overwhelmed." The next slide was a screenshot of a text conversation with our mother. "Can you take Addison for the weekend? I can't handle this anymore." Mom's response, "We're exhausted, honey. Maybe try that new daycare." I almost laughed. The golden child was finally getting a taste of what I'd lived with my entire life. "What's so funny?" Rachel asked. "Nothing important." I deleted the Instagram app from my phone entirely. "Just clearing out some digital clutter." "Good for you. Life's too short for things that don't bring you joy." Jolie threw a piece of banana, and it landed on my shirt. Instead of feeling frustrated, I laughed and threw a piece back at him, making him squeal with delight. "Mama's silly." "Yes, Mama's very silly." I kissed his forehead, sticky with banana and syrup. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from my mother. "Please call when you get a chance. We really need to talk." I turned the phone off completely and slipped it into the junk drawer. "Who wants to go to the park after breakfast?" I asked. Me. Jolie clapped his hands, even though he couldn't really understand the question yet. "Park it is," Rachel said. "I'll bring the good camera." We were building our own photo album now, one where everyone in the pictures actually wanted to be there. "You're not going to believe this," Maya said, sliding into her usual seat at our Thursday support group meeting. I looked up from where I was helping Jolie stack blocks in the corner. "What happened?" "Remember how I told you I work at Little Sprouts Daycare?" Maya lowered her voice. "Well, we had a situation this week. A 3-year-old got pulled out because of behavioral issues. That's sad. Poor kid. The thing is, I recognized the name when the mom came to pick up her stuff. Addison Ellis. Isn't your sister's last name Ellis?" My hands stilled on the blocks. What kind of behavioral issues? Hitting other kids, screaming fits that lasted hours, throwing toys. The mom seemed completely overwhelmed. She was crying when she left. I sat back on my heels. When was this? Tuesday. The mom said something about having to move back in with her parents because her husband left. Maya's eyes widened. "Oh my God, that is your sister, isn't it?" Before I could answer, Sarah leaned over from the next chair. "Did you say Ellis? I know that family. My neighbor works at the elementary school, and she said there was drama about a kid not being picked up on time multiple days in a row." "Same kid?" "Has to be. Small town, right?" I picked up Jolie and held him close, breathing in his familiar scent. He was nothing like the child they were describing. Happy, curious, gentle with other kids at playgroup. "The mom looked really rough," Maya continued, "like she hadn't slept in weeks, and the little girl was having a complete meltdown in the parking lot. Took 3 of us to get her into the car seat." My phone had been buzzing intermittently for the past 2 weeks. Unknown numbers, voicemails I hadn't listened to, texts I'd deleted without reading. Now I was starting to understand why. After group ended, I sat in my car and finally opened my voicemail. The first one was from 3 days ago. Dad's voice, shaky and tired. "Serenity, it's your father. We need to talk to you. Things have been difficult here, and we think maybe we made some mistakes. Please call us back." The second one was from yesterday, Mom this time. "Honey, I know you're angry with us, but we really need your help. Kira is going through a hard time and Addison is, well, she's having some challenges. We're all struggling here. Please just call me back." The third was from this morning. Dad again. "We owe you an apology. A big one. Please call us." I played the last message for Weston over dinner that night. He nearly choked on his pasta. "Are you serious right now?" he said, wiping his mouth. "After everything they put you through? Gets better. Listen to this one." I played Mom's message. "We really need your help," Weston repeated. Not, "we miss you," or "we were wrong." They need your help. Jolie banged his spoon against his high chair tray, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding around him. He was such a happy kid. Secure. Loved. Everything Addison apparently wasn't. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing." "Nothing? They made their bed, now they get to lie in it." I cut up more chicken for Jolie. "Besides, we have news to share with them eventually." Weston raised an eyebrow. "We do?" I smiled. "I got the call today. The job in Oregon came through. Full remote position, better pay, and will be 10 minutes from your parents instead of across the country." "Serenity, that's amazing." He jumped up and kissed me. "When do we start?" "I start in 6 weeks, which means we need to put the house on the market." "Wait." Weston sat back down. "You're going to move across the country without telling them?" "Why would I tell them? They haven't been part of our lives for over a year." My phone rang. Dad's number. "Answer it," Weston said. "I want to hear this." I put it on speaker. "Hello?" "Serenity. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I've been busy." "Honey, we need to see you. We need to meet our grandson properly. and we need to talk about some things. We've made mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" Silence. Then Mom's voice in the background. "Tell her about Kira. Your sister is going through a divorce. Cody left her and she's moved back home with Addison. It's been challenging." "Challenging how?" "Addison is having some behavioral problems. She's been kicked out of daycare and Kira can't work. We're overwhelmed." I looked at Weston, who was shaking his head in disbelief. "And you thought of me because?" "Because you're family. Because we need each other." "Funny, I needed you a year ago and you went on a cruise instead." "That's not fair. Dad, I have to go. Jolie needs his bath." "Wait, please, can we come see you this weekend? We really need to talk." I looked around our kitchen, at the finger paintings on the fridge, at Jolie's high chair covered in Cheerio crumbs, at the life we'd built without them. "Sure," I said finally. "Come by Saturday afternoon." After I hung up, Weston stared at me. "What are you planning?" "Nothing dramatic. I'm just going to show them exactly what they missed. And then? And then I'm going to tell them we're moving to Oregon." I picked up Jolie and spun him around, making him laugh. "Aren't we, baby boy? We're going to live near Grandma Rachel and Grandpa Daryl, where people actually want to spend time with us." Jolie clapped his hands, delighted. Perfect timing, as always. Saturday afternoon arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel like a fresh start. I was in the kitchen making tea when I saw their car pull into the driveway. "They're here," I called to Weston, who was in the living room with Jolie. "You sure about this?" "Positive." I opened the front door before they could knock. Mom looked older than I remembered, with new lines around her eyes and gray roots showing through her usually perfect blonde hair. Dad stood behind her, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Serenity." Mom's voice cracked. "You look wonderful." "Thank you. Come in." They stepped inside, and I watched their faces as they took in our home. Really took it in, maybe for the first time, the walls covered with Jolie's artwork, the photo collages documenting every month of his life, the corner where his toys were neatly organized in colorful bins. "This is beautiful," Dad said quietly. "Thank you. We've worked hard to make it a home." Jolie peeked around the corner from the living room, then immediately hid behind Weston's legs when he saw the strangers. "Is that him?" Mom whispered, like she was seeing a miracle. "That's Jolie. He's 18 months now. He's so big." She took a step forward and Jolie pressed closer to Weston. "Hi, sweetie. I'm your grandma." Jolie didn't respond. He'd never heard that word applied to her before. "He's shy with new people," I said evenly. "Would you like some tea?" We sat in the living room, the silence stretching uncomfortably. Jolie stayed glued to Weston's side, occasionally peeking at my parents with curious but wary eyes. "He doesn't know us," Mom said, her voice small. "No, he doesn't." "Serenity." Dad cleared his throat. "We owe you an enormous apology." "For what specifically?" They exchanged glances. Mom spoke first. "For not being there when you needed us. For choosing Kira over you, repeatedly. For making you feel like you didn't matter. And for what Dad said on the phone that night. About toughening up and acting like Kira." Dad winced. "That was inexcusable. I was frustrated with the situation, but I took it out on you, and that was wrong." I sipped my tea, letting their words hang in the air. "What situation were you frustrated with?" Kira had been calling us constantly, complaining about Cody working late, about Addison being difficult. We thought if we took them on the cruise it would help, instead of helping your other daughter who was dealing with postpartum anxiety. "We didn't understand how serious it was," Mom said quickly. "We thought it was just normal new mom stress." "Did you think to ask?" Silence. Jolie toddled over to his toy box and pulled out his favorite book. He brought it to Weston, who immediately started reading to him in a soft voice. My parents watched, transfixed. "He's never done that with us," Mom whispered. "He doesn't know you." I repeated. We want to change that, Dad said. We want to be part of his life, part of your life. Where's Kira today? Mom's face tightened. She's having a difficult day. Addison had another meltdown this morning, and Kira locked herself in her room. She's been struggling since Cody left. And you're overwhelmed. Yes. So you came to me. You're our daughter too, Dad said. We should have come to you first. We should have been there from the beginning. I set down my teacup. You're right. You should have. But you weren't. We can fix this, Mom said desperately. We can start over. We can help with Jolie, and you can help us with Addison. We can be a real family. That's interesting timing. What do you mean? I stood up and walked to the mantel, where a stack of papers sat next to a framed photo of Jolie's first birthday party. Rachel and Daryl were in every picture, along with our friends from the support group. My parents weren't in a single one. I mean, you want to be a family now that Kira can't handle her life anymore. Now that the golden child has fallen from grace and you need a backup plan. That's not... It is, though. I picked up the papers from the mantel. These are our moving contracts. We're relocating to Oregon in 3 weeks. The color drained from Mom's face. Moving? I got a job offer, remote work, better pay, and we'll be close to Weston's parents. You know, the ones who actually showed up when we needed them. You can't take our grandson away from us, Mom said, standing up abruptly. Our grandson? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. He's been your grandson for 18 months. Where have you been? We made mistakes. You made choices. Every single day for over a year you chose Kira and Addison over Jolie and me. You chose a cruise over helping your daughter through a mental health crisis. You chose to ignore us until you needed something. Dad stood up too. We're here now. We're trying to make it right. You're here because your other daughter is falling apart and you can't handle it alone. This isn't about making things right with me. This is about damage control. Jolie looked up from his book, sensing the tension in the room. Weston scooped him up protectively. Don't keep our grandson from us, Mom pleaded. I looked at her for a long moment. Then at Dad. Then at my son, who was contentedly playing with Weston's watch. I'm not keeping him from you, I said quietly. You did that already, for over a year. The sound of a car door slamming made us all turn toward the window. Another car had pulled up in our driveway. Were you expecting someone else? Dad asked. I smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. Actually, yes, that would be the realtor. The realtor knocked just as Mom sank back onto the couch, staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Excuse me for a moment. I walked to the front door and opened it. Hi, Janet. Perfect timing. Serenity, ready for the final walkthrough before we list on Monday? Janet stepped inside with her tablet and measuring tape. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had company. It's fine. These are my parents. They were just leaving. Actually, we weren't, Dad said firmly. We need to finish this conversation. Janet looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. I can come back later. No need, I said. We can do the walkthrough now. My parents are welcome to see what they're missing. I turned to Mom and Dad. Feel free to look around while Janet and I work. Consider it a tour of your grandson's childhood. Weston caught my eye and nodded slightly. He understood. He picked up Jolie and followed us as I led Janet through the house. So this is the living room, I said in my most professional voice. As you can see, we've made it very child-friendly. That corner there is Jolie's reading nook. We read together every night before bed. Janet made notes on her tablet while Mom wandered over to look at the photo wall. Dozens of pictures chronicled Jolie's life. First smile, first food, first steps, first birthday party. These are beautiful, Janet said. Buyers love seeing how a family has lived in a space. Thank you. We've been very intentional about documenting memories. Mom picked up a framed photo from the side table. It was from Jolie's first Christmas, all of us in matching pajamas with Rachel and Daryl. Her hands shook slightly. "Let's move to the kitchen," I continued. "This is where we have our Saturday morning pancake tradition. Jolie helps me flip them now." I opened the cabinet where we kept his special plastic spatula and showed Janet the step stool we'd painted together. "And this," I said, pointing to the refrigerator, "is our art gallery. Every masterpiece gets displayed." The fridge was covered in Jolie's finger paintings, handprint turkeys, and crayon scribbles. In the center was a photo of him covered in flour from our last baking session, grinning from ear to ear. Dad stood in the doorway, taking it all in. "You've built a beautiful life here." "We have." "Upstairs?" Janet asked. "Of course." We climbed the stairs, my parents trailing behind. I pointed out the family photos lining the stairwell, more memories they weren't part of. "This is Jolie's room," I said, opening the door to reveal walls painted soft blue with clouds on the ceiling. Weston painted those clouds himself when I was pregnant. The room was perfect. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with stories we read every night. A rocking chair sat in the corner where I'd spent countless hours nursing and soothing. Toys were organized in bins, and artwork covered every available surface. "Here's where he took his first steps," I said, pointing to the space between his crib and the toy chest. "And that corner? That's where he said his first word. Mama." Mom made a small sound, almost like a sob. "The master bedroom is through here," I continued, leading Janet down the hall. "We converted the walk-in closet into a small office space when I started working from home." "Smart use of space," Janet said, making more notes. "We've had to be creative. When you don't have family support, you learn to make the most of what you have." Dad stopped in the hallway. "Serenity, please. Can we talk privately?" "We are talking. I'm showing you 18 months of your grandson's life that you missed by choice. We didn't choose to miss it. You chose a cruise over helping me when I was drowning. You chose to ignore my calls. You chose to post zoo pictures the day after I begged you for 2 hours of help." My voice stayed level, professional. "These were all choices." Janet cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Maybe I should—" "It's fine, Janet. They need to see this." I walked to the window that overlooked our backyard. "That's where we set up Jolie's first kiddie pool last summer. And see that sandbox? Weston built it for his first birthday." "The birthday we weren't invited to," Mom whispered. "You were invited. I sent you an invitation. You said you had plans with Kira." You thought wrong. About a lot of things." Jolie started fussing in Weston's arms, and I took him. He immediately calmed, snuggling against my shoulder. "He's tired. It's almost nap time." I looked at my parents. "This is our routine. Every day at 2 p.m., he naps in his crib while I work or clean or just breathe. Simple things that make a life." "We want to be part of that life," Dad said desperately. "Where were you when we were building it?" Janet finished measuring the room and stepped back. "I think I have everything I need for now. The house is going to show beautifully." "Thank you. We'll be in Oregon before it closes, but our attorney can handle everything remotely." "Oregon?" Mom's voice cracked. "How far?" "Far enough." We walked back downstairs, the silence heavy between us. Janet gathered her things and headed for the door. "I'll have the listing live by Monday morning. In this market, I expect multiple offers within the first week." "Perfect. Thank you, Janet." After she left, my parents stood in our entryway, looking lost. "This is revenge," Mom said finally. I adjusted Jolie on my hip and looked at her calmly. "No, this is correction. Revenge would have been letting you believe we still needed you. We're your family. Family shows up. Family doesn't abandon you when things get hard and then come crawling back when they need something." I walked to the door and opened it. "You should go. Jolie needs his nap, and I'm sure Kira needs you." They didn't move. "Please," Dad said, "don't do this. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for us. We can change. You had 18 months to change. You chose not to." I kissed Jolie's forehead, and he smiled sleepily at me. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad. This time, they left. After they left, I found myself standing in Jolie's room, watching him sleep in his crib. The afternoon light filtered through the cloud-painted ceiling, and everything felt surreal. Weston appeared in the doorway. How are you feeling? Honestly? Lighter. My phone buzzed on the dresser. A text from Maya. Girl, you need to see this. Check Kira's Instagram. I opened the app reluctantly. Kira had posted a long caption over a black square. When you realize the people you thought would always be there for you aren't coming to save you. When you have to face the fact that maybe you've been living in a fantasy. Some of us weren't built for the real world. Some of us crack under pressure. I thought my sister would be the one who broke, but here I am, completely falling apart while she's thriving without any of us. Funny how life works. The post had dozens of comments, mostly from people I didn't recognize offering generic support. But one comment caught my eye, from our cousin Lisa. Maybe it's time to apologize instead of making cryptic posts. I screenshot the post and sent it to Weston. Wow, he texted back from downstairs. She's really having a moment. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Kira's number. Hello? Serenity. Her voice was hoarse like she'd been crying. I saw Mom and Dad's car leaving your house. They came to visit. And they left. Silence stretched between us. Then, they told me you're moving to Oregon. We are. Because of us. I walked to the window and looked out at our backyard, where Weston was taking down Jolie's swing set to pack. Because it's what's best for our family. I messed up. Her voice cracked. I messed up so bad, Serenity. Cody left me, Addison is out of control, and I can't handle any of it. Mom and Dad are overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. I'm sorry you're going through that. Are you, though? Are you really sorry? Or are you happy that I'm finally getting what I deserve? I considered lying, giving her the polite response she was fishing for. Instead, I told the truth. I'm not happy that you're suffering, but I'm not surprised that you can't handle it when life gets hard. That's cold. It's honest. You've never had to handle anything difficult. Mom and Dad made sure of that. And you resent me for it. I used to. Now I just feel sorry for you. Sorry for me? You're 27 years old, and you don't know how to function when things don't go your way. You've never had to develop coping skills or resilience because someone always swooped in to fix everything for you. Kira was quiet for a long moment. I know I wasn't a good sister to you. No, you weren't. I could try to be better. It's too late for that. It doesn't have to be. We're still sisters. Sisters show up for each other. Sisters don't post passive-aggressive comments about how some people can't handle parenting when their sister is struggling with postpartum anxiety. You saw that? I saw a lot of things. I just stopped responding to them. I was jealous, she said quietly. You always seemed so put together, so capable. Even as kids, you handled everything better than I did. Because I had to. No one was going to handle it for me. I know that now. Do you? Or do you just know it because you're finally experiencing what I've lived with my whole life? Another long pause. What can I do to fix this? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. There has to be something. Kira, listen to me. I spent 30 years trying to earn love and approval from people who had already decided I wasn't worth it. I'm done. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm just done. But we're family. No, we're not. We're related. There's a difference. I heard her crying on the other end of the line. I'm going to hang up now, I said gently. I hope you figure things out. I really do. But I won't be part of it. Serenity, wait. Take care of yourself, Kira. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Downstairs, Weston was packing books into boxes. Everything okay? Perfect, actually. I picked up a photo album from the coffee table. One Rachel had made for us, documenting Jolie's first year. Every page was filled with love, laughter, and people who had chosen to be part of our story. You know what I realized today? What's that? I spent so many years trying to fit into their version of family that I never noticed I was building my own. Weston smiled. Our version is better. Much better. I opened the album to a page showing Jolie's first birthday party. Rachel and Daryl were helping him blow out his candle while our support group friends cheered in the background. Look at all these people who love him. And love you. And love me. I closed the album and placed it carefully in the box labeled Family Chosen. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the writing style immediately. Mom had gotten another new number. Please don't take our grandson away from us, we're begging you. I showed Weston the message. What are you going to say? I deleted the message without responding and blocked the number. Nothing. I'm done explaining myself to people who never listened anyway. Jolie's cries came through the baby monitor. Nap time was over. I'll get him, Weston said. We'll both get him. We walked upstairs together, and I lifted my sleepy, happy son from his crib. He smiled at me with pure, uncomplicated love. Ready to go see Grandma Rachel and Grandpa Daryl, baby boy? He clapped his hands, not understanding the words, but responding to my excitement. That's right. We're going home. The moving truck pulled away from our new house in Oregon just as Rachel and Daryl arrived with a cooler full of food and their arms full of welcome gifts. There's my sweet boy. Rachel scooped up Jolie, who squealed with delight. He'd been calling her Nana for months now, and she'd never corrected him. How does it feel? Daryl asked, looking up at our new house nestled between towering pine trees. Like coming home, I said, and meant it. Well, you're 10 minutes away now instead of across the country, so you better get used to us showing up all the time. Rachel laughed, spinning Jolie around. That's the plan. Weston emerged from the house carrying empty boxes. The neighbors already stopped by with cookies, 3 different families. That's how it is here, Daryl said. Real community. We spent the afternoon unpacking while Jolie toddled around the new house, exploring every corner with fearless curiosity. Rachel had brought materials to baby-proof everything, and Daryl was already measuring windows for safety locks. You don't have to do all that today, I protested. Nonsense, Rachel said, installing cabinet latches. This little guy needs to be safe in his new home. My phone, sitting on the kitchen counter, buzzed with a notification. Instagram. I'd reinstalled it to share our moving updates with the support group back home. The notification was from Maya. You need to see this. Screenshot incoming. The image showed a Facebook post from my mother. Heartbroken that our son-in-law has taken our daughter and grandson away from us. Some people choose to punish their families instead of working through problems together, praying for healing and forgiveness. Family, heartbroken, Chucker grandparents' rights. The post had dozens of comments from her church friends and neighbors, all offering sympathy and prayers. I showed the screenshot to Weston, who was assembling Jolie's new bookshelf. Grandparents' rights? He said. Seriously? She's really going all out with the victim narrative. Rachel looked over my shoulder at the phone. Who is this person? My mother. The one who ignored you for over a year and then showed up demanding access to Jolie? That's the one. Rachel's face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. May I? She took my phone and started typing. I watched, fascinated, as my sweet mother-in-law transformed into a protective mama bear. What are you writing? The truth, she handed the phone back. Her comment read, Evelyn, I'm Rachel Phillips, Serenity's mother-in-law. I've watched this beautiful family rebuild their lives after being abandoned by people who should have supported them. Serenity didn't take your grandson away. You gave him away when you chose a cruise over helping your daughter through postpartum anxiety. Some people choose to be victims instead of taking responsibility for their actions. Jolie is loved, safe, and surrounded by family who actually show up. Accountability, real family. Rachel, I stared at her. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Nobody talks about my daughter-in-law like that. My throat tightened. Your daughter-in-law? That's what you are, isn't it? My son's wife, my grandson's mother, part of our family? Jolie chose that moment to toddle over with his favorite book, holding it up to Rachel expectantly. Story, Nana? Of course, sweetheart. Let's read about the little bear who built her own cave. As Rachel settled into the rocking chair with Jolie, my phone started buzzing with notifications. People were responding to her comment, and apparently, my mother's post was backfiring spectacularly. Maya texted, "Your mother-in-law is my hero. The comments are brutal. Your mom is getting roasted." I scrolled through them. Person after person was calling out my mother's manipulation, sharing their own stories of toxic family dynamics, praising Rachel for standing up for me. Then I saw it. A comment from Lisa, our cousin. "Aunt Evelyn, I love you, but this is embarrassing. Serenity tried for years to have a relationship with you. You chose Kira every single time. Own it and move on." "Mama, look!" Jolie had abandoned the book and was pointing out the window at a deer in our backyard. "I see it, baby. Isn't it beautiful?" He clapped his hands, delighted by this new adventure. Daryl finished installing the last safety lock and stood back to survey his work. "There. Now this place is officially Jolie-proof." "Thank you," I said. "For everything. For accepting us, for loving us, for being family," Rachel interrupted gently. "That's what family does." I looked around our new living room. Boxes labeled Family Chosen sat next to others marked Jolie's Room and New Beginnings. Sunlight streamed through windows that faced a forest instead of a neighborhood where I'd never belonged. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I showed it to Weston, who sighed. "Want me to handle this?" "No," I typed back. "Yes, it is." Then I blocked the number and turned off my phone completely. "Story time," I announced, settling onto the floor next to Rachel's chair. "Once upon a time," I began, making up the words as I went, "there was a little bear who lived in a cave that was too small and too cold. So she walked through the forest until she found the perfect spot, and she built herself a new cave, and it was warm and safe and filled with bears who loved her exactly as she was." Jolie clapped his hands. "More!" "And they all lived happily ever after," I finished. "Again," he demanded. "Again," I agreed, because now we had all the time in the world for stories. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting back. It's about walking away without waiting to be chased.
The gravel crunched under our tires as I pulled into the circular driveway of the beach house, and I felt that familiar knot form in my stomach. 8 years old, and my son Ethan was already better at hiding his disappointment than I was. "Mom, why does the house look so big but feel so small when we're here?" he asked, pressing his face against the passenger window. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes. "Because some places are like that, honey," I said, turning off the engine. "They look one way from the outside." My name is Alexis, and I was about to spend the next week in hell. Family vacation, they called it. More like an annual reminder of exactly where I stood in the Kelly family hierarchy, somewhere between the hired help and the family dog. The house stretched before us like something out of a magazine. 3 stories of weathered cedar shingles, wraparound porches, and floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the afternoon sun. Grandfather built it in 1962, back when this stretch of North Carolina coast was still affordable. Now it was worth more than most people's houses sitting on 2 acres of prime beachfront property. "There's Aunt Sophia's car." Ethan pointed to the gleaming black BMW parked near the front entrance. Of course, she'd already claimed the best parking spot. Some things never change. I grabbed our 2 modest suitcases from the trunk while Ethan shouldered his backpack. Through the windows, I could see movement inside. Sophia's perfectly highlighted hair catching the light as she gestured dramatically about something, probably complaining about the drive or the weather or whatever else wasn't up to her standards. Remember what we talked about, I said quietly to Ethan as we walked up the front steps. We're guests here. We say please and thank you, we don't make a mess, and we don't complain. Even if they're mean to us? The question hit me like a slap, especially then. The front door opened before we could knock. Sophia stood there in a flowing white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her smile as bright and fake as her veneers. "Alexis, you made it!" She air-kissed my cheek, careful not to actually touch me. "And there's my favorite nephew." Ethan was her only nephew, but he smiled politely anyway. "Hi, Aunt Sophia." Come in, come in. Kylan's just finishing up a work call. You know how it is with important business." She emphasized the word important just enough to remind me that my part-time job at the local library didn't qualify. The interior was exactly as I remembered, all white furniture and nautical decor, the kind of place where you were afraid to sit down. Kylan emerged from the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, wearing khakis and a polo shirt that screamed, "I own a yacht." He held up one finger in our direction, continuing his conversation. No, tell them the offer stands until Friday. After that, they can find another investor." Classic Kylan, making sure everyone knew he was the big shot, even during family time. "Sorry about that," he said finally, sliding the phone into his pocket. "Alexis, good to see you." His handshake was firm and brief, the kind you'd give a business acquaintance you barely tolerated. "Where should we put our things?" I asked. Sophia and Kylan exchanged a look, one of those married couple looks that said they'd already discussed this. "Well," Sophia began, her voice taking on that syrupy tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "Mom and Dad are in the blue room, and Kylan and I have the master suite, obviously. We thought you and Ethan could take the storage room. We cleared it out and put in a cot." The storage room? A windowless box next to the laundry that smelled like mothballs and old paint. "That's fine," I said, because what else could I say? "It'll be like camping," Sophia chirped. "Ethan loves camping, right?" Ethan looked up at me with those big brown eyes that saw too much. "Sure," he said quietly. As we dragged our suitcases toward the back of the house, I heard Dad's voice from the kitchen. She should be grateful we let her in at all, considering. Considering what? Considering my divorce? Considering I didn't marry rich? Considering I existed? Mom's voice was softer, harder to make out, but I caught the words "difficult time" and "do our best." "Did we do something wrong, Mom?" Ethan whispered as we stood in the doorway of our assigned room. I looked at the single cot, the bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, the stack of Christmas decorations shoved into the corner. Then I looked at my son, who deserves so much better than this. "No, baby," I said, setting down our suitcases. "We didn't do anything wrong." But as I tucked Ethan into that narrow cot that night, listening to Sophia's laughter echoing from the master suite above us, I pulled out an old lockbox I'd hidden at the bottom of my suitcase. Inside were papers I'd kept for 3 years, papers that would change everything. I ran my fingers over the legal documents, and slowly a smile curled on my lips. They had no idea. The next morning, while everyone else slept in their comfortable beds, I sat on the back porch with my coffee and my phone. The sun was just starting to paint the sky pink over the ocean, and for the first time in years, I felt something that might have been hope. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Krista's number. We'd been friends since high school, back when she was just as broke as me. Now she was a real estate attorney with her own practice, but she still answered her phone at 6 in the morning. "Alexis, everything okay?" "I need to ask you about those papers we discussed, the ones from grandfather's will." A pause. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Tell me again what they say. Exactly. I heard papers rustling in the background. Krista was nothing if not thorough. The property at 1247 Ocean View Drive is bequeathed in its entirety to Alexis Marie Kelly in recognition of her faithful companionship during the grantor's final years and her demonstrated commitment to family legacy. The words hit me the same way they had 3 years ago when Krista first explained them to me. Grandfather had been sick for 2 years before he died. While everyone else was too busy with their important lives to visit, I'd driven down every weekend with baby Ethan. I'd read to him, brought him his favorite soup, listened to his stories about building the house. The rest of the family thinks it's held in trust, I said, because that's what they wanted to believe. Your grandfather was very specific about this, Alexis. He told me himself that he was tired of watching you get pushed around. I remembered that conversation now, sitting in his hospital room while he held Ethan on his lap. Alexis, he'd said, his voice weak but determined, promise me something. Don't let them make you small. You're worth more than they'll ever see. I'd thought he was just being a sweet grandfather. I had no idea he was planning something. There's more, Krista continued. I found the recording. What recording? Your grandfather had me videotape his final will reading. He insisted on it. Said he wanted everything crystal clear when the time came. My heart started pounding. What does it say? He specifically states that the house goes to you because you were the only one who cared about him as a person, not just his money. He mentions your sister by name, Alexis. He says Sophia only visited when she wanted something. I closed my eyes, remembering Sophia's last visit to grandfather. She'd spent the entire time talking about needing money for her wedding, barely looking at him while he struggled to eat his lunch. He also mentions your parents, Krista added quietly, says they raised you to be invisible, but he saw you. He saw how much you gave and how little you got back. The back door opened and Ethan padded out in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Morning, Mom. Who are you talking to? Just a friend, honey. Go get dressed, okay? He nodded and headed back inside, but not before I caught him glancing toward the master suite upstairs, where Sophia and Kylan were probably sprawled across the king-size bed. Krista, I said once Ethan was gone, what would it take to make this official? You mean claim the property? I'd need to file the will with the county, serve notice to current occupants, and establish your legal ownership. It's not complicated, but... But what? But once we do this, there's no going back. Your family will know you've been sitting on this for 3 years. They'll know you let them treat you like garbage while you held all the cards. Through the window, I could see Sophia in the kitchen, probably making herself the elaborate breakfast she'd expect someone else to clean up. She was wearing silk pajamas that cost more than my car payment, moving around the kitchen like she owned it, which technically she didn't. They're going to hate you, Krista said softly. They already do. At least this way I'll have a reason. I heard footsteps on the stairs inside. Dad's voice carried through the walls. Where's the coffee? Doesn't anyone in this house know how to set up a proper breakfast? Mom's response was too quiet to hear, but I knew she was probably scrambling to fix whatever he was complaining about. Krista, I said, standing up and walking to the edge of the porch where the ocean stretched endlessly before me. If we do this, how long do I have to give them to leave? Legally, 30 days. But given the circumstances, I could argue for immediate possession. It's your primary residence now, right? It could be. Then we could do this fast, really fast. I thought about Ethan sleeping on that cot, about the way Kylan had looked right through him yesterday, about Dad's comment that I should be grateful to be here at all. How fast? I could have papers ready by tomorrow, served by the end of the week. The sun was fully up now, turning the ocean from gray to brilliant blue. It was going to be a beautiful day. Do it, I said. Alexis, are you absolutely sure? Once I file this, I'm sure it's time. The next 2 days fell into a familiar pattern. I woke up early, made breakfast for everyone, cleaned up after them, and watched Ethan while the adults lounged on the beach or took long naps. It was like being an unpaid servant in my own house. Well, technically my house, but they didn't know that yet. Alexis, could you grab me another towel? Sophia called from her beach chair, not bothering to look up from her magazine. And maybe some of those crackers from the kitchen? Sure, I said, getting up from where I'd been building sandcastles with Ethan. Oh, and check on my phone charger, would you? I think I left it upstairs. Kylan snorted. She's not your maid, Sophia. I'm just asking for help. That's what family does, right, Alexis? I nodded and headed toward the house, but not before I caught Kylan's eye roll. Interesting. Trouble in paradise? While I was upstairs getting Sophia's charger from the master bedroom, I noticed Kylan's laptop open on the dresser. The screen was still active, showing his email. I shouldn't have looked, but something made me pause. The email thread was with someone named Elisa. The subject line read, "Can't wait to see you again." I glanced toward the window where I could see Kylan still on the beach, then back at the screen. The most recent message was from yesterday. Sophia suspects something. We need to be more careful. Delete these emails. My heart started racing. I pulled out my phone and quickly took photos of the screen, scrolling through several messages. There were plans to meet, complaints about Sophia being clingy, and promises about leaving her once the trust fund situation is sorted out. Alexis, Sophia's voice carried up from the beach. Did you get lost up there? Come in, I called back, closing the laptop and grabbing the charger. When I returned to the beach, I studied Kylan with new eyes. He was scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing at Sophia with what I now recognize as barely concealed irritation. Here's your charger, I said to Sophia. Thanks, hun. You're a lifesaver. She patted my arm like I was a helpful pet. That evening, while everyone was getting ready for dinner, I printed out the photos at the house's small office printer. The messages were clear enough to read, damning enough to destroy a marriage. I slipped them into a manila envelope and wrote, "For Sophia," on the front. Dinner was at the fancy seafood place downtown, the kind of restaurant where Ethan felt nervous touching anything. I sat between him and Mom while Sophia and Kylan held court at the other end of the table. So Kylan's been looking at investment properties in the Hamptons, Sophia announced, cutting into her lobster. We might buy a summer place there, too. That sounds expensive, Dad said, but he was smiling. He always smiled when money was involved. Well, when you're successful, you have options, Kylan said, shooting a quick glance in my direction. Not everyone can understand that kind of pressure. Must be nice, I said quietly. What was that? Sophia asked. I said it must be nice, having options. Kylan leaned back in his chair. You know, Alexis, if you'd focus more on your career instead of rushing into marriage, you might have options too. The table went quiet. Even Ethan stopped eating. Kylan, Mom said softly, that's not... I'm just saying success requires sacrifice. Some people make smart choices, others... He shrugged. Others what? I asked. Others end up divorced and living in storage rooms. Sophia giggled, actually giggled. Kylan, stop! But she wasn't really telling him to stop. She was enjoying this. I think, Dad said, raising his wine glass, we should toast to Sophia and Kylan for showing us what a successful marriage looks like. Everyone raised their glasses except me and Ethan. I was too busy watching Kylan's face, thinking about those emails, about Elisa, about the lies he was telling while sitting next to his wife. To success, Dad continued, and to family members who know how to make something of themselves. The words hit me like a physical blow. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. After dinner, we walked along the boardwalk. Sophia and Kylan were ahead of us, his arm around her waist, playing the perfect couple. Mom and Dad followed, discussing property values and stock portfolios. Ethan and I brought up the rear, invisible as always. "Mom," Ethan whispered, "why do they talk to you like that?" "Because they can," I said, then immediately regretted it. I mean, some people just, it's not fair. No, honey, it's not. When we got back to the house, everyone scattered to their rooms. I waited until I heard Sophia in the shower, then slipped into the master bedroom and tucked the envelope into her purse. My hands were shaking as I did it. This wasn't just about the house anymore. This was about watching my sister's perfect world crumble the same way mine had. I knew it would detonate eventually. The question was when and how much damage it would do. As I headed back to the storage room where Ethan was already asleep on his cot, I realized I didn't care about the damage anymore. Some bridges were meant to burn. The explosion came at breakfast the next morning. I was in the kitchen making pancakes when I heard Sophia's voice from upstairs, sharp and dangerous. "What the hell is this?" Kylan's response was muffled, but I caught the words, "Don't know and never seen." "Don't you dare lie to me!" Something crashed, probably a lamp or a picture frame. "Elisa? Who the fuck is Elisa?" Ethan looked up from his orange juice. "Mom, why is Aunt Sophia yelling?" "She's just upset about something. Eat your pancakes." Dad emerged from the blue room, hair disheveled, looking annoyed. "What's all the racket?" "Sophia found something," Mom said quietly, appearing behind him in her robe. More shouting from upstairs. Kylan's voice was louder now. "You're being crazy. Those could be fake." "Fake? These are screenshots from your email, you lying piece of shit." Dad grimaced. "Language, Sophia." "Don't you dare tell me about language right now." Sophia's voice was getting closer. She was coming downstairs. She appeared in the kitchen doorway like a hurricane, still in her silk pajamas, clutching the printed emails in one hand and her phone in the other. Her perfectly styled hair was a mess, and her makeup was smeared. "Did you know?" she demanded, looking straight at me. "Know what?" "About this." She waved the papers. "About Kylan and his little whore." "Sophia," Mom gasped, "there's a child present." Ethan's eyes were wide, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, flipping another pancake. Kylan appeared behind her, fully dressed but looking rattled. "Sophia, calm down. We can discuss this privately." "Privately? Like you discussed Elisa privately?" She turned to face him. "How long?" "How long what?" "How long have you been screwing her?" Dad slammed his coffee mug down. "That's enough. This is a family vacation, not a soap opera." "Family?" Sophia laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "You want to talk about family? Ask Kylan about family loyalty." Kylan straightened his shoulders, trying to regain control. "I don't have to explain myself to anyone, especially based on some anonymous—" "Anonymous?" Sophia's voice went deadly quiet. "You think this was anonymous?" She looked around the room, her gaze landing on each of us in turn. When her eyes met mine, I kept my expression neutral, but something flickered in her face. "Someone in this house knows more than they're saying." "Sophia, you're being paranoid," Kylan said. "Anyone could have—" "Shut up." She held up her hand. "Just shut up." The kitchen fell silent except for the sizzling of the pancake on the griddle. I flipped it and added it to the stack. "Breakfast is ready," I announced. "Breakfast." Sophia stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "My marriage is falling apart and you're making pancakes?" "Life goes on," I said, setting the plate on the table. "Ethan, do you want syrup?" "Yes, please." Dad cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all take a step back. These things happen in marriages. You work through them. Work through them! Sophia's voice cracked. He's been planning to leave me. It's all in the emails. Kylan's face went pale. Sophia, you're taking things out of context. Out of context? You told her you were waiting for the trust fund situation to be sorted out before you left me. What trust fund, Kylan? What situation? Now it was Kylan's turn to look around the room desperately. I was talking about future planning, investment strategies. Investment strategies? Dad perked up despite the chaos. What kind of investments? Nothing concrete, Kylan said quickly. Just possibilities. I poured syrup on Ethan's pancakes and cut them into small pieces. Eat up, honey. We might go for a walk on the beach later. Can we build another sandcastle? Of course. Sophia was staring at us now, her anger shifting into something else, confusion, suspicion. How are you so calm? She asked me. What do you mean? Your sister's marriage is imploding and you're talking about sandcastles. I shrugged. It's not my marriage, but it's your family. Is it? The words came out before I could stop them. The room went dead silent. Even Ethan stopped chewing. What did you say? Dad's voice was low and dangerous. Nothing. I just meant, no, you said something. What did you mean, is it? I looked around the table at all of them, Sophia with her tear-streaked face and crumpled emails, Kylan sweating in his polo shirt, Dad glaring at me like I was the problem, Mom wringing her hands, desperate to keep the peace. I meant that family is supposed to care about each other, I said finally. Family is supposed to protect each other, support each other. We do support each other, Mom said weakly. Do you? I stood up and started clearing the dishes, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like everyone's just looking out for themselves. Dad's face was turning red. You ungrateful? Ungrateful? I turned to face him. For what? For being allowed to sleep in a storage room? For being treated like the help? For watching my son get ignored while everyone fawns over Sophia's perfect life? My life isn't perfect, Sophia screamed. My husband is cheating on me. And I'm sorry about that, I said, and I meant it. But maybe if you'd spent less time looking down on everyone else, you would have noticed what was happening in your own marriage. The silence that followed was deafening. Kylan looked like he wanted to disappear. Mom was crying quietly. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. I think, I said, wiping my hands on the dish towel, I need some air. I walked out onto the back porch and pulled out my phone. Krista, it's time. File everything. Today. The rest of the morning passed in tense silence. Sophia had locked herself in the master bedroom. Kylan paced the living room making phone calls, his voice hushed and urgent. Mom busied herself cleaning things that were already clean, and Dad sat on the deck reading the same page of his newspaper, over and over. I took Ethan to the beach where we built an elaborate sandcastle complete with a moat and towers. For the first time all week, he seemed relaxed, laughing as the waves crashed closer to our creation. Mom, look, the water's coming for our castle. Should we build a wall to protect it? No, he said, grinning. Let's see what happens. Smart kid. Sometimes you had to let the waves come. Around noon, a FedEx truck pulled into the driveway. I watched from the beach as the driver walked to the front door with an envelope. My heart started pounding. Who's that? Ethan asked. Just a delivery. Keep playing. But I couldn't focus on sandcastles anymore. Through the windows, I could see the driver talking to Dad, who signed for the package and closed the door. A few minutes later, Dad's voice boomed through the house. Alexis, get in here. I brushed the sand off my hands. Ethan, stay right here where I can see you, okay? Okay, Mom. I walked up to the house, my legs feeling like jelly. Dad was standing in the living room holding the envelope, his face red with confusion and anger. What is this? He thrust the papers at me. I took them, pretending to read them for the first time. It looks like legal documents. I can see that. But what do they mean? Sophia emerged from upstairs, her eyes puffy from crying. What's going on now? Your sister apparently has some explaining to do, Dad said. Kylan appeared from the kitchen, phone still pressed to his ear. Can you keep it down? I'm trying to handle a crisis here. We're all handling a crisis, Sophia snapped. I looked down at the papers in my hands. Official letterhead, legal language. My name at the top is the sole owner of 1247 Ocean View Drive. I don't understand, I said, which was technically true. I didn't understand how it had taken me 3 years to use them. It says you own this house, Dad said slowly, like he was talking to a child. It says grandfather left it to you. That's impossible, Sophia said. The house belongs to all of us. It's been in the family for decades. Apparently not, I said, handing the papers back to Dad. Kylan ended his call and joined us. What's this about? Alexis supposedly owns the beach house, Sophia said, which is ridiculous because what? I asked. She stared at me. Because you're not. I'm not what, Sophia? You're not responsible enough. You can't even keep a marriage together. The words hung in the air like a slap. Dad nodded approvingly. Mom appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands. There has to be a mistake, Mom said quietly. Daddy would never what? I asked. Leave something to me? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Kylan was reading over Dad's shoulder now. This looks legitimate. The signatures, the notarization. When was this dated? 3 years ago, Dad said, right after the funeral. 3 years. Sophia's voice was shrill. You've known about this for 3 years? I looked at her, then at Dad, then at Mom hovering in the doorway. I've known grandfather loved me. I've known he saw how you all treated me. I just didn't know he'd done something about it. This is insane, Kylan said. You can't just sit on something like this for 3 years and then spring it on people. Why not? You sat on your affair for how long? His face went white. That's completely different. Is it? We're both keeping secrets that hurt the people we're supposed to care about. Dad was studying the papers more carefully now. If this is real, then we need to contest it. Grandfather wasn't in his right mind at the end. He was perfectly lucid, I said. He knew exactly what he was doing. You manipulated him, Sophia accused. You spent all that time with him, filling his head with lies about us. I spent time with him because I loved him, because when he was dying, I was the only one who showed up. We were busy. With what? Shopping? Lunch dates? Planning your perfect wedding? Sophia's face crumpled. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but it came out bitter. You want to talk about fair? Fair would be treating me like family instead of hired help. Fair would be giving my son a real bed instead of a storage room. Fair would be acknowledging that I exist for reasons other than cleaning up after you. We do acknowledge you, Mom said weakly. Do you? When? When Dad toasts Sophia's success while ignoring mine? When you let Kylan insult me at dinner? When you act like my divorce is some kind of personal failure that reflects badly on the family? The room was silent except for the sound of waves outside and Ethan's laughter from the beach. I think, I said, folding the papers and putting them in my pocket, you all need to start packing. Packing? Dad's voice was dangerous. This is our family vacation. This is my house, and I'm done being a guest in my own home. I walked toward the door, then turned back. You have until tomorrow morning. Alexis, wait. Mom started, but I was already walking back to the beach where Ethan was still playing in the sand, oblivious to the fact that our world was about to change forever. "How's the castle holding up?" I asked, sitting down beside him. "The waves got it," he said cheerfully, "but that's okay. We can build a better one." "Yes," I said, watching the water wash away the last traces of our creation. "We can." That evening, I found an old VHS tape in the attic while everyone else was having their tense, silent dinner downstairs. The label read "Grandfather's Final Wishes, July 2020, in Krista's neat handwriting. I'd forgotten about this. Krista had mentioned it during our call, but seeing it in person made my hands shake. I carried it downstairs to the living room and found the old VCR that Grandfather had refused to replace, despite everyone's complaints about it being outdated. The house was eerily quiet. Sophia and Kylan had barely spoken to each other all day. Dad kept making phone calls to lawyers, his voice getting more frustrated with each conversation. Mom had spent the afternoon crying in the blue room. I set up the VCR and cued the tape to the beginning, then left it ready to play. Tomorrow morning they'd get the full story. "Mom?" Ethan appeared in the doorway in his pajamas. "Are we really leaving tomorrow?" "We're not leaving, honey. Everyone else is." "But why are they mad at you?" I sat down on the couch and pulled him onto my lap. Sometimes adults have disagreements about important things. "Is it because of the house?" "Partly." "But it's your house, right? The papers said so." "Smart kid. Too smart. Yes, it's my house." "Then why are they acting like you stole it?" Before I could answer, Sophia appeared in the doorway. She'd changed out of her pajamas into jeans and a sweater, and her face was puffy from crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Ethan, go brush your teeth," I said. "I'll be up in a minute." He nodded and headed upstairs, but not before giving Sophia a wary look. "He doesn't trust me," Sophia said, sitting down across from me. "Can you blame him?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I know I haven't been the best sister." "That's an understatement." "I'm trying to apologize here." "Are you? Because it sounds like you're trying to make yourself feel better." Sophia's face hardened. "You know what? Fine. I was trying to be nice, but clearly you're not interested." "Nice? When have you ever been nice to me, Sophia? Really nice, not just polite in public nice." You've always what? Treated me like the family embarrassment, made sure everyone knew I was the failure, acted like my problems were contagious. That's not true, isn't it? When I got divorced, did you call to check on me? Did you offer to help with the Ethan? Did you do anything besides whisper to Mom about how I'd really done it this time? Sophia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I was dealing with my own things." "Your own things?" "Right. Like planning your perfect life with your perfect husband who's been cheating on you for God knows how long." "Don't!" Her voice was sharp. "Don't throw that in my face." "Why not? You've been throwing my divorce in my face for 2 years." "Because I was trying to help you learn from your mistakes." "My mistakes?" I stood up. "What mistakes, Sophia? Marrying someone who turned out to be different than I thought? Having a child? Getting divorced when it wasn't working? You gave up too easily." "I gave up too easily?" I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "I stayed in that marriage for 3 years longer than I should have, because people like you kept telling me that divorce was failure, that good wives make it work, that I just needed to try harder." "You did need to try harder." "And what about Kylan? Should you try harder with him? Should you just accept that he's cheating because that's what good wives do?" Sophia's face crumpled. "That's different." "How is it different?" Because we, she couldn't finish the sentence. "Because you thought you were better than me. Because you thought your marriage was perfect and mine was broken. because you thought you deserved better treatment than I did. I never said that. You didn't have to say it. You showed it every single day. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted us. Dad appeared, still in his dinner clothes, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We need to talk, he said. All of us. There's nothing to talk about, I said. The papers are legal. The house is mine. You need to leave. Alexis, be reasonable. This is the family beach house. We've been coming here for decades. And now you're not. You can't just kick us out. I can and I am. Dad's face was turning red. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me, Dad? Really? What have you ever done for me that you didn't do for Sophia first and better? We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. You did the bare minimum required by law. Congratulations. You ungrateful little... Ungrateful? I stood up facing him. You want to know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful that Grandfather saw what you all refused to see. I'm grateful that he loved me enough to make sure I'd never have to beg for scraps from this family again. He was a senile old man. He was the only one in this family who ever treated me like I mattered. The room fell silent. Through the window I could see Kylan on the deck, still on his phone, probably talking to Elisa. Tomorrow morning, I said quietly, I'm going to show you something, and then you're going to pack your things and leave my house. And if we don't? Dad's voice was challenging. Then I'll call the sheriff and have you removed for trespassing. Sophia gasped. You wouldn't. Try me. I walked toward the stairs, then turned back. Oh, and Sophia, you might want to ask Kylan about his financial situation. According to his emails, he's not as successful as he pretends to be. I left them standing there in stunned silence and went upstairs to tuck Ethan into his cot one last time. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, I woke up before dawn and made coffee. By the time everyone else stumbled downstairs, I had the VCR ready and the tape queued up. What's this? Dad asked, eyeing the TV setup suspiciously. Grandfather's final message, I said, pressing play. The screen flickered to life, showing Grandfather sitting in his hospital bed, looking frail but alert. Krista's voice came from behind the camera. State your name and the date for the record. Harold James Kelly, July 15th, 2020. His voice was weak but clear. I'm recording this to make sure there's no confusion about my final wishes regarding the beach house. Sophia sank into a chair. Oh my God. I'm leaving the house at 1247 Ocean View Drive to my granddaughter Alexis and to her alone. Grandfather looked directly into the camera, not to the family trust, not to be shared, to Alexis. Why? Krista's voice prompted. Because she's the only one who cared about me as a person, not just my money. When I was dying, she came every weekend. She brought her baby boy to see me. She read to me, talked to me, treated me like I still mattered. Mom started crying quietly. My other granddaughter, Sophia, visited me 3 times in 2 years. Each time she asked for money, for her wedding, for her house, for her husband's business ventures. She never asked how I was feeling. That's not true, Sophia protested. Shh, I said, not taking my eyes off the screen. My son Dean and his wife Pearl, they did their duty. They called once a week, visited on holidays, but they never saw me. They saw an obligation, a burden. Dad's face was stone, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. Alexis saw me. She saw a grandfather who loved her. She saw a man who was proud of her strength even when her own family couldn't see it. Grandfather shifted in his bed, looking tired but determined. I watched them treat her like she was less than, like her divorce made her a failure, like her struggles were something to be ashamed of. But I saw a woman who left a bad marriage to protect her child. I saw a mother who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. I saw someone who gave love freely, even when she got nothing back. Stop it, Sophia whispered. Just stop it. The house goes to Alexis because she earned it, not through manipulation or asking for handouts, but through simple human kindness. She's the only one who deserves it. The tape ended. The room was dead silent except for Mom's quiet sobbing. Well, Dad said finally, his voice hoarse, I guess that settles it. It doesn't settle anything, Sophia said, standing up abruptly. He was sick. He wasn't thinking clearly. He sounded pretty clear to me, I said. You poisoned him against us. I visited him. There's a difference. You manipulated a dying old man. I loved him. You used him. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. I used him? I used him by showing up, by caring, by being there when he was scared and alone. You knew he had money. You knew he'd leave you something. I knew he loved me. That's all I knew. Kylan, who had been silent through the whole video, finally spoke up. Look, this is all very touching, but we need to be practical here. The house is worth millions. Alexis can't just... Can't just what? I turned to face him. Can't just own something that legally belongs to me? You don't understand the financial implications. Oh, I understand perfectly. You're broke, aren't you, Kylan? His face went white. What are you talking about? Your business ventures, your investments, they're not doing so well, are they? That's none of your business. It is when you're planning to leave my sister for another woman once you figure out how to get your hands on family money. Sophia stared at him. What is she talking about? Nothing. She's making things up. Am I? Should I read some more of your emails to Elisa? The ones where you complain about being stuck with Sophia until the inheritance situation gets resolved? You hacked my email? I read what you left open on your laptop in my house. Sophia's face was cycling through emotions, confusion, hurt, rage. Is it true? Kylan looked around the room desperately. Sophia, let me explain. Is it true? It's complicated. She slapped him hard. The sound echoed through the room. You bastard, you lying, cheating bastard. Sophia, please get out. Her voice was deadly quiet. Get out of this house right now. We need to talk about this. Get out! Kylan grabbed his keys from the counter and headed for the door. This isn't over, he said, looking at me. Yes, it is, I replied. After he left, the room fell silent again. Sophia was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Mom went to comfort her, but Sophia pushed her away. Don't touch me, just don't. Dad cleared his throat. Well, I suppose we should start packing. Dad, I said quietly. What? I'm sorry it had to be like this. He looked at me for a long moment. No, you're not. You're enjoying this. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was enjoying it a little, but mostly I just felt tired. You have until noon, I said. Then I'm calling the sheriff. You really would, wouldn't you? Dad's voice was full of disgust. You'd have your own father arrested? If that's what it takes. He shook his head. You're no daughter of mine. The words should have hurt. A week ago they would have destroyed me, but now they just felt like the truth finally being spoken out loud. Good, I said, because you were never much of a father. By 11:30, the house was empty except for Ethan and me. I watched from the kitchen window as Dad loaded the last suitcase into his car. Mom sat in the passenger seat staring straight ahead. They hadn't said goodbye. Sophia had left an hour earlier, her face streaked with tears and mascara. She'd paused at the door, looking back at me like she wanted to say something, but then just shook her head and walked away. Mom, why is it so quiet? Ethan asked, sitting at the kitchen table with his coloring book. Because it's just us now. Is that good or bad? I looked around the kitchen, my kitchen, with its white cabinets and granite countertops, the morning light streaming through windows that faced the ocean. For the first time in my life, I was in this house without feeling like I needed permission to exist. It's good, honey. It's very good. The doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see a woman with gray hair and kind eyes holding a bouquet of flowers. "Mrs. Alexis," she said when I opened the door. "I'm Michaela, the house caretaker. I heard about about everything." "Oh, hi." I'd forgotten about Michaela. She'd been taking care of the house for years, but the family had always treated her like part of the furniture. "I wanted to bring you these," she said, holding out the flowers, "and to tell you how happy I am that you're finally home." "Home? Your grandfather talked about you all the time. He always said this house belonged to you, that you were the only one who understood what it meant to him." I took the flowers, surprised by the kindness. "Thank you." "He also left something for you in the attic. He made me promise to give it to you when the time was right." She handed me a small wooden box. Inside was a key and a note in grandfather's shaky handwriting for Alexis. The real treasure was never the house. It was watching you become the woman you were meant to be. Love, Grandpa. "He was so proud of you," Michaela said softly, "even when the others couldn't see it." After she left, I sat on the front porch with the box in my lap. Ethan was building another sandcastle on the beach, his laughter carrying on the ocean breeze. My phone buzzed. A text from Krista. "How did it go?" I typed back, "They're gone." "All of them? All of them? How do you feel?" I thought about that. How did I feel? Sad, maybe. Relieved, definitely. But mostly I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. "Free," I typed. "Good. You deserve it. By the way, I've had 3 calls already from vacation rental companies. That house could make you serious money." I looked up at the 3-story cedar structure that had been both my prison and my salvation. Renting it out would be smart, practical. It would give Ethan and me financial security. But as I watched him playing in the sand, as I felt the ocean breeze on my face, as I sat in a place where I finally belonged, I realized I didn't want to rent it out. I wanted to live here. "Mom," Ethan called from the beach, "come see what I built." I walked down to where he was kneeling in the sand. He'd constructed an elaborate castle with multiple towers and a deep moat. "It's beautiful," I said. "I made it strong this time. See? The walls are really thick, so the waves can't knock it down." Smart thinking. "Mom, are we going to stay here? Like, really stay?" I looked at the house behind us, then at the endless ocean in front of us. For the first time in my adult life, I had a choice. Not just about where to live, but about who to be. "Would you like that?" "Yeah, I like it here when it's just us." "Then yes, we're staying." That evening, I called my old boss at the library and gave my notice. Then I called the local elementary school to ask about enrollment. Finally, I called Krista. "I'm not renting it out," I told her. "You're sure? The income potential is huge." "I'm sure. This is home now." "What about your family? They'll come around eventually." I thought about Dad's parting words, about Sophia's tears, about Mom's silence. Maybe they would come around, maybe they wouldn't. But for the first time in my life, that wasn't my problem to solve. "If they want to be part of our lives, they know where to find us," I said. "But they'll have to come as guests in my house by my rules." "And if they don't?" I looked out at Ethan, who was reading on the couch in the living room, our living room, completely content. "Then we'll be just fine without them." As I hung up the phone, I realized something had shifted. The scared, apologetic woman who'd arrived here a week ago was gone. In her place was someone I barely recognized but was starting to like. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who wouldn't settle for scraps. Someone who understood that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to play by other people's rules anymore. They told me to be grateful I was even invited. Now they'd never be invited again.
The household budget planner had a cheerful yellow cover with a cartoon woman holding a calculator, smiling like she'd just discovered the secret to eternal happiness. Turner placed it on the kitchen counter next to my untouched birthday cake, his expression expectant. "Happy birthday, babe. I thought this might help you get more organised with your contributions. My name is Yasmin, and I've been married to this man for 8 years. 8 years of watching his respect for me evaporate like steam from the dishwasher I load 3 times a day." "A budget planner?" I picked it up, feeling the cheap plastic binding. "For my birthday? It's practical." Turner loosened his tie, already moving toward the fridge. "You're always saying you want to help more with finances. This way you can track household expenses, maybe find ways to cut costs." Ross, my 7-year-old, looked up from his homework. "Mummy, where's your real present?" "This is the real present, buddy." Turner ruffled our son's hair. "Mummy's going to learn how to be more helpful around here." I set the planner down carefully, my hands steady despite the rage building in my chest. More helpful? You know what I mean. He grabbed a beer, popped it open. "You've got all this free time during the day. Might as well make it productive. Free time." I'd been up since 5:30 with Scarlett, our 4-year-old, who'd had another nightmare. Before that, I was up at 2 helping Ross with a bloody nose. Before that, midnight diaper change because Scarlett still had accidents. But sure, free time. "I'll look through it," I said. The next evening, we sat around Sadie's dining table for our weekly family dinner. Turner's mother had outdone herself with the passive-aggressive hospitality, cloth napkins, her good china, and a pointed comment about how some people don't dress up for family meals anymore. So Yasmin, Georgia, Turner's sister, cut into her salmon with surgical precision. "Turner mentioned you got a lovely birthday gift yesterday." "A budget planner," I said, taking a sip of wine. "How thoughtful." Georgia's smile was razor-sharp. "I got a spa weekend for my birthday, but then again, I work outside the home." "Yasmin works plenty," Turner said, but his tone suggested otherwise. "She's just between careers right now." "Between careers." Sadie dabbed her mouth with her napkin. "That's a nice way to put it." "I'm raising your grandchildren," I said quietly. "Of course, dear, and you do such a adequate job." Sadie's pause was deliberate. "Though I do worry about Ross's reading level. Perhaps if he had more structured learning time instead of so much television. He doesn't watch that much TV." "George's children are already reading chapter books," Sadie continued. "But then again, she invests in proper tutoring." Georgia nodded. "It's amazing what you can accomplish when you prioritize your children's development over other things." Turner said nothing, just cut his steak and let his family dissect me like I wasn't sitting right there. "What other things?" I asked. "Oh, you know." Georgia waved her hand vaguely. "Sleeping in, long lunches, shopping trips, the luxury of not having real responsibilities. The luxury of not having real responsibilities." I thought about my morning. Scarlett had thrown up on her sheets at 6 a.m. I'd stripped the bed, started laundry, cleaned the bathroom floor, made breakfast, packed Ross's lunch, found his missing library book, mediated a fight over the last waffle, drove Ross to school, took Scarlett to her doctor's appointment, grocery shopped with a cranky 4-year-old, came home, switched laundry, made lunch, cleaned up lunch, put Scarlett down for a nap, folded 3 loads of laundry, prepped dinner, picked up Ross, helped with homework, refereed another fight, made dinner, served dinner, and now sat here being told I had no real responsibilities. "You're right," I said. "I should probably be more productive." Turner looked pleased. "See, I told you the planner would help." That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat in the kitchen with my laptop. The house was finally quiet, except for the hum of the dishwasher, my third load of the day. I opened a new spreadsheet and titled it Household Management Services. If Turner wanted numbers, I'd give him every damn one. I started typing, Day 1, childcare services, 14 hours, meal preparation, 3 hours, housekeeping, 4 hours, laundry services, 2 hours, transportation, 1 hour, administrative tasks, 2 hours. The cursor blinked at me like a promise. This was just the beginning. 3 weeks into my documentation project, I had 47 pages of data. Every diaper change, every meal prepared, every tantrum managed, every scraped knee kissed better. I'd researched professional rates for everything. Private chefs averaged $35 an hour, nannies $25, housekeepers $22, personal assistants $18. My weekly total was hovering around $2,000. In unpaid labour. What are you always typing? Turner asked one morning, peering over my shoulder as I updated yesterday's entries. Just organising some things. I minimised the window. Household stuff. Good. Maybe you can figure out why our grocery bill is so high. I pulled up our bank statements that night after he went to bed. Turner controlled all our accounts. I had a debit card linked to what he called my household allowance. $500 a month for groceries, kids' clothes, and anything I needed. He monitored every transaction. But there was something interesting in the old statements. A business account from his consulting firm, opened 3 years ago for miscellaneous household expenses. He'd gotten a secondary card for it, probably forgot it existed when the business restructured. The account still had $800 in it. I found the card in his desk drawer, buried under old receipts. Amber, it's Yasmin. Can you meet for coffee? My friend Amber had been my colleague back when I had a career. Now she ran her own consulting firm, the kind of success story I used to think I'd become. You look tired, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I am tired. I'm always tired. I pulled out my laptop. But I need your help with something. I showed her the spreadsheet. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the data. Holy shit, Yasmin, this is comprehensive. Is it crazy? Crazy? This is brilliant. Do you know what domestic labour is worth in the current market? She leaned forward. I had a client last year who used similar documentation in her divorce. The judge was fascinated. Divorce? I'm not saying that's where this is headed, but if it were, she gestured at the screen, this is gold, pure gold. That afternoon, I used Turner's forgotten business card to pay for a consultation with a family law attorney. Just information gathering, I told myself. Research. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, reviewed my preliminary numbers. Domestic labour isn't typically compensated in divorce proceedings, she said, but there are precedents for recognising unpaid contributions to household management, especially when one spouse has been financially controlling. Financially controlling? Limiting access to accounts, monitoring spending, creating dependency. Does any of that sound familiar? It all sounded familiar. Sunday brunch at George's house was a monthly torture session disguised as family bonding. Her kitchen looked like a magazine spread, marble countertops, fresh flowers, not a single fingerprint on the stainless steel appliances. The kids are at their father's this weekend, Georgia announced, setting down a platter of perfectly arranged fruit. So I finally got to sleep in until 9. Must be nice, I said, bouncing Scarlett on my lap while she whined about wanting different juice. It is nice. That's the beauty of having a career. You get breaks, weekends off, vacation days, sick leave. Georgia's smile was poisonous. Some women just like depending on their husbands, don't they? Turner laughed. Yasmin's not dependent. She's just focused on the home front. Right, the home front. Georgia refilled her mimosa. Though I have to say, I don't know how you do it, Yasmin. All that time with no adult conversation, no intellectual stimulation. I'd go crazy. It's not that bad, I lied. Oh, but it must be. I mean, what do you actually do all day, besides the obvious mum stuff? The obvious mum stuff. Like it was nothing. Like keeping two small humans alive and functional was just a hobby. She keeps busy, Turner said, but his tone suggested he wasn't entirely sure what I kept busy with. I'm sure she does, Georgia's voice dripped condescension. It's just such a luxury not having real deadlines or performance reviews. No pressure to actually produce anything measurable. That night, I added a new column to my spreadsheet, emotional labour. Every time I absorbed an insult, managed Turner's moods, smoothed over family tensions, pretended everything was fine when it wasn't. I was up to 53 pages now. Turner found me at the kitchen table at midnight, laptop open, calculator beside me. Still organising? Something like that. You know, maybe Georgia has a point about getting back into the workforce. I could probably get you something entry-level at my firm. Entry-level, after 8 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a marketing degree he'd encouraged me to abandon. I'll think about it. Good. Because honestly, Yasmin, I'm getting tired of being the only one contributing to this family. I looked up at him. Really looked at him. This man who came home to a clean house, home-cooked meals, and well-cared-for children every single day. I'm keeping tabs on everything now, I said quietly. He laughed. Sure you are. I am. Okay, babe. Whatever helps you feel productive. After he went upstairs, I opened a new browser window and searched for top family law attorneys in the city. If Turner wanted productivity, I'd show him exactly how productive I could be. The therapist's office smelled like lavender and had too many throw pillows, but Dr. Martinez listened without judgment as I explained my situation. You're documenting your contributions, she said, reviewing my notes. That's actually quite healthy. Many women in your position feel invisible. I do feel invisible. What would visibility look like to you? I thought about it. Recognition, respect, maybe just acknowledgement that what I do matters. And if that doesn't come, then I'll have proof of what I was worth. I'd been using Turner's forgotten business cards strategically. Therapy sessions, legal consultations, even a few online courses in business management. Small charges that wouldn't trigger alerts, spread out over weeks. Amber helped me formalize the spreadsheet into something that looked professional. Charts, graphs, market comparisons. We met at coffee shops while the kids were at school, refining the data. You need to add childcare coordination, she said, scrolling through my latest version. Scheduling appointments, managing school communications, organising play dates. That's project management. Turner thinks I just drop them off and pick them up. Turner's an idiot. This is executive-level work. She highlighted several rows. And you're undervaluing yourself. A live-in nanny with your qualifications would make $60,000 minimum. I was up to 78 pages now. Sadie arrived unannounced on a Tuesday morning, letting herself in with the spare key Turner had given her. I was still in my pyjamas, having been up all night with Scarlet's fever. Yasmin, dear, we need to talk. She surveyed my kitchen with obvious disapproval. I brought groceries. She unpacked organic everything, milk, bread, cereal, fruit, expensive brands I couldn't afford on my allowance. You don't need to do that, I said. Clearly I do. Ross told me you've been buying store-brand cereal. Store-brand, Yasmin. What kind of message does that send? That we're on a budget? That you don't prioritise quality nutrition for your children? She held up a box of organic granola. This is what growing minds need, not processed sugar. I stared at the $20 box of cereal. Sadie, I can't afford... That's exactly my point. If you contributed financially, these wouldn't be issues. I do contribute, I take care of everything here so Turner can focus on work. Taking care of things isn't the same as contributing, dear. Turner works 14-hour days to support this family. The least you could do is manage a proper household budget. Something snapped. Maybe it was the sleepless night. Maybe it was months of accumulated insults, but I felt tears coming and couldn't stop them. I work 14-hour days too, I said, my voice cracking. I just don't get paid for it. Oh, honey, Sadie's voice was patronizing. Being a mother isn't work. It's a privilege, a calling. You should be grateful Turner allows you to stay home. Allows me. Like it was his gift to me instead of a mutual decision we'd made when Ross was born. I am grateful, I whispered. Good. Now, about this cereal situation. That night, Turner came home to find me crying over dinner prep. Scarlett was finally fever-free but clingy. Ross needed help with a science project, and I'd burned the chicken because I couldn't focus. "What's wrong now?" he asked, loosening his tie. "Your mother came by. She brought groceries." That was nice of her. She said I don't prioritize the kids' nutrition, that I should be grateful you allow me to stay home. Turner sighed. She's just trying to help. By insulting me? By giving you perspective? Look, Yasmin, I know you're tired, but you've got to admit, you're not exactly maximizing your potential here. I turned to face him. What does that mean? It means you sleep until 7, you're in pajamas half the day, and you act like loading the dishwasher is some huge accomplishment. I was up all night with Scarlett. She had a fever. One sick night doesn't justify. It wasn't one night. It's every night. Someone always needs something. I haven't slept through the night in 4 years. That's what being a parent means. What's what being a mother means? When's the last time you got up with them? Turner's jaw tightened. I work. I provide for this family. That's my contribution. And what's mine? Honestly, I'm not sure anymore. You used to cook elaborate meals, keep the house spotless, plan activities for the kids. Now it's takeout and screen time while you mess around on your laptop. I stared at him. This man who came home to clean clothes, organise schedules, and functioning children every single day. I'm doing nothing all day. I didn't say nothing. I said you're not maximising your potential. Right. I turned back to the stove, scraped the burned chicken into the trash. I'm keeping tabs on everything now. He laughed, the same dismissive sound from weeks ago. Sure you are. I am. Okay, babe, whatever makes you feel better about your choices. After he went upstairs, I opened my laptop and added today's entries. Sick childcare, 8 hours. Emotional labour managing family criticism, 2 hours. Meal planning and preparation, 3 hours. Then I opened a new browser tab and searched for Tessa Fowler attorney. The reviews were impressive. Ruthless. Brilliant. Gets results. I bookmarked her contact information. If Turner wanted to know what I was capable of, he was about to find out. I started taking freelance writing gigs under the name Y. Martinez. My middle name was Maria, close enough. Small projects, blog posts, social media content, nothing that would show up on our joint tax return, everything paid to a separate account I'd opened using my maiden name. The work felt rusty at first, like speaking a language I'd almost forgotten. But muscle memory kicked in. Within a month, I was making decent money. Not enough to live on, but enough to pay for things Turner didn't need to know about. You seem different lately, he said one evening, watching me type on my laptop. Different how? I don't know. More focused. What are you working on? Just organising some files, digital decluttering. He nodded, already losing interest. Turner never paid attention to anything that didn't directly affect him. Dr. Martinez helped me recognise patterns I'd been blind to for years. He withholds affection when you displease him, she said during one session. He's just tired from work. When did you last have a conversation that wasn't about logistics, kids' schedules, household needs, his work stress? I couldn't remember. He controls the money, dismisses your contributions, and his family openly disrespects you in his presence. What does he do when that happens? Nothing. He just lets it happen. Why do you think that is? Because he agrees with them. The words hung in the air like a confession. At home, Turner's coldness became more obvious once I started looking for it. No more casual touches, no more inside jokes, no more interest in my thoughts or feelings. When I tried to initiate intimacy, he'd find excuses. Too tired, too stressed, too busy. Maybe this weekend, he'd say, then spend Saturday on his phone and Sunday watching sports. But he was affectionate with the kids, playful and engaged when it suited him. The contrast was stark. "Daddy, why don't you hug Mommy anymore?" Scarlett asked one morning at breakfast. Turner's coffee cup paused halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean, sweetheart? You used to hug her. Now you just talk about boring stuff." "Mommy and Daddy are fine," he said, not looking at me. "We're just busy." "Too busy for hugs?" "Eat your cereal, Scarlett." I caught him on his phone that night, texting someone. When I walked into the room, he quickly switched apps. "Who are you texting?" "Work stuff. You wouldn't understand." "Try me." "It's complicated business things, Yasmin. Nothing you need to worry about." The dismissal stung, but I filed it away with everything else. 2 days later, I was updating the family Google Calendar when I saw it. A lunch appointment scheduled for the following week. Tessa, mediation. My blood went cold. Tessa. As in Tessa Fowler, the attorney I'd been researching. I screenshot the entry before it could disappear. That night, I called Amber. "He's meeting with a divorce attorney," I said without preamble. "What? Are you sure?" "It's on the calendar. Tessa Fowler. I looked her up. She's exactly the kind of lawyer someone like Turner would hire." "Shit! What are you going to do?" "I'm going to beat him to it." The next morning, I used Turner's business card to pay Tessa's retainer. $5,000, nearly everything I'd saved from freelancing, plus what was left in his forgotten account. Her office was intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, walls covered with awards and newspaper clippings. Tessa herself was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with sharp eyes and a handshake that could crack bones. "So," she said, settling behind her desk, "your husband thinks he's leaving you." "Apparently. And you want to make sure he regrets it?" "I want to make sure I'm protected and compensated." She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Show me what you've got." I pulled out my laptop and opened the spreadsheet. 96 pages now, 5 months of meticulous documentation, every task, every hour, every service I'd provided to keep Turner's life running smoothly. Tessa's eyebrows rose as she scrolled through the data. "This is thorough." "Is it useful?" "Useful. Honey, this is a masterpiece. Do you have supporting documentation?" I pulled out a folder thick with receipts, photos, email screenshots, text messages, evidence of Turner's financial control, his family's treatment of me, his gradual withdrawal of affection and respect. "You've been planning this for months." "I've been surviving this for years. The planning is recent." Tessa leaned back in her chair. "I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen documentation this comprehensive from someone who wasn't already in proceedings. So you'll take my case?" "Oh, I'll take your case. But first, I need you to understand something. If we do this, we do it right. No mercy, no second chances, no backing down when he tries to charm his way out of it." "I'm not backing down." "Good. Because when I'm done with Turner, he's going to wish he'd never heard the words lazy housewife." I thought about his dismissive laugh, his casual cruelty, his family's constant undermining. "How long do we have?" "His appointment is next week. That gives us time to prepare. But Yasmin—" She leaned forward. "I've waited 5 years for a case like this. Let's make it hurt." I walked out of her office, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Turner chose a Tuesday evening for his announcement. The kids were in bed, I was loading the dishwasher, and he was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine and an expression I'd never seen before. Almost relieved. "Yasmin, we need to talk." I dried my hands slowly, buying time. "About what?" "About us. About where this is going." He gestured vaguely at the space between us. "I think we both know this isn't working anymore." "What isn't working?" "This, us, the whole setup." He took a sip of wine. "I've been thinking about it for months, and I think we want different things." I sat down across from him. "What do I want?" "You want to be taken care of. You want someone else to handle the hard stuff while you focus on domestic things. And that's fine, Yasmin. There's nothing wrong with that. But I need a partner, not a dependent." The word hit like a slap. A dependent. "You haven't worked in years. You don't contribute financially. You've lost touch with the professional world completely." His voice was calm, almost clinical. "I'm tired of being the only adult in this relationship." "I raise your children." "Our children? And yes, you do that adequately. But Ross is in school full-time now. Scarlett will be soon. What's your plan then? More of the same?" I stared at him. This man who'd convinced me to leave my job, who'd promised we'd figure it out together, who'd made me feel selfish for wanting to work when the kids were small. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I want a divorce." The words hung in the air. I'd been expecting them, but hearing them still felt surreal. "I see. I know this is hard to hear, but I think it's best for everyone. We've grown apart, we want different things, and frankly, I don't think either of us is happy." "And you've thought this through?" "I have. I've even talked to a lawyer just to understand the process. It doesn't have to be ugly, Yasmin. We can be civilized about this." "Civilized?" "Exactly. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just think we've reached the end of the road." I nodded slowly. "What happens to me?" "You'll figure it out. You're smart. You're capable. Maybe this will be the push you need to get back out there, rebuild your career." "After 8 years out of the workforce?" "It won't be easy, but you can do it. Start small, work your way up. There are programs for women returning to work." "And in the meantime?" Turner shifted uncomfortably. "Well, there'll be some support initially. Child support, obviously. Maybe a small amount of alimony while you get back on your feet." "How small?" "We'll work it out. The point is, you won't be homeless, but you'll need to become self-sufficient eventually." Self-sufficient. Right, independent. It'll be good for you, actually. You've been in this bubble for so long, you've forgotten what you're capable of. I stood up, walked to the window. Our backyard looked peaceful in the evening light. The swing set Turner had assembled when Ross was 3. The garden I'd planted and maintained for 5 years. The patio where we'd hosted countless family barbecues. What about the kids? Joint custody, obviously, though given your situation, I think they should probably stay here most of the time. Stability, you know? My situation. No job, no income, no permanent housing yet. It just makes sense. I turned back to face him. You've really thought this through. I have. And Yasmin? I know this is a shock, but I think deep down, you know I'm right. We're not the same people we were when we got married. No, I said quietly. We're not. So, you understand? I understand perfectly. He looked relieved. Good. I was worried you'd make this difficult. Why would I make it difficult? Some women get emotional about these things, vindictive, but you're not like that. No, I'm not. Exactly. so we can handle this like adults. I walked back to the table, sat down across from him again. When do you want to start the process? Soon. I've already scheduled a consultation with a mediator, someone neutral who can help us work out the details fairly. That sounds reasonable. Turner smiled for the first time all evening. I'm glad you're being so mature about this. It'll be better for everyone, especially the kids. Absolutely. We should definitely think about what's best for the kids. Right, and honestly, Yasmin, this might be the best thing that ever happened to you, a chance to rediscover who you are outside of being a wife and mother. You might be right. I know I am, you'll see. In a year or two, you'll thank me for this. I nodded. I should probably call my dad. Let him know what's happening. That's a good idea. Maybe he can help you figure out your next steps. You know, temporary housing until you get back on your feet. Maybe he'll take me in. Exactly. See? You're already thinking practically. After Turner went upstairs, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at my reflection in the dark window. Then I picked up my phone and texted Tessa. He made his move. Tomorrow work for you? Her response came back immediately. I've been waiting for this call. See you at 10. I climbed the stairs quietly, listening to Turner's satisfied breathing from our bedroom. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd outmaneuvered me, planned the perfect exit strategy. He had no idea what was coming. The mediation office had beige walls and uncomfortable chairs, the kind of place designed to make everyone want to leave as quickly as possible. Turner arrived with his lawyer, Marcus, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd never lost a case. Turner wore his best charcoal suit and his most confident smile. He kissed my cheek like we were old friends meeting for lunch. You look good, Yasmin. Rested? Thank you. Tessa sat beside me in a sharp black blazer, her briefcase positioned precisely on the table. She'd coached me through this moment a dozen times. Let them make the first offer, she'd said. Let them show their hand completely before we show ours. The mediator, a tired-looking woman named Helen, shuffled through paperwork. Let's begin with Mr. Perry's proposal. Marcus slid a folder across the table. We believe this is a fair and generous settlement that takes into account both parties' contributions to the marriage. I opened the folder. Child support, $1,200 a month. Alimony, $800 a month for 2 years. No mention of the house, retirement accounts, or Turner's business assets. This seems reasonable, Turner said. Yasmin hasn't worked in years, so she'll need time to get back on her feet. 2 years should be plenty. And the marital assets? Tessa asked. The house will be sold, proceeds split equally after the mortgage is paid off, Marcus said. That should give Mrs. Perry enough for a down payment on something smaller. Something smaller, I repeated. Well, you won't need as much space, Turner said. And honestly, you can't afford the upkeep on a house that size anyway. Tessa made a note. What about Mr. Perry's retirement accounts, his business interests? Those are separate assets, Marcus said smoothly, accumulated through Mr. Perry's professional efforts. While Mrs. Perry provided unpaid domestic labour that enabled those professional efforts. Turner laughed. Come on, Yasmin chose to stay home. That was her preference. Was it? Tessa asked. Or was it a mutual decision that benefited your career advancement? Look, I'm trying to be fair here, Turner said. Yasmin gets child support, alimony, and half the house equity. That's more than generous for someone who hasn't contributed financially to this marriage. Tessa smiled. It was the same predatory smile I'd seen in her office. Actually, Mrs. Perry has been contributing quite substantially. She's prepared a detailed accounting of her services. She slid a thick folder across the table. Turner glanced at it dismissively. What is this? An itemized invoice for domestic services rendered over the past 5 years. Marcus opened the folder, his expression shifting from bored to concerned as he flipped through pages, charts, graphs, time logs, market rate comparisons, legal precedents. This is, he started, then stopped. Turner grabbed the folder. What the hell is this, Yasmin? It's exactly what it looks like. Documentation of every service I've provided to maintain our household and support your career. You kept track of doing laundry. I kept track of everything: childcare, meal preparation, housekeeping, administrative tasks, emotional labour, sleep deprivation, sick care, transportation, event planning, social coordination. Turner's face was reddening. This is insane! Is it? Tessa pulled out a calculator. Let's see. 5 years of full-time domestic labour at market rates. Childcare averages $25 an hour, housekeeping $22, personal chef $35, administrative assistant $18. She punched in numbers while Turner watched, his confidence evaporating. The total comes to $482,765.40. The room went silent. Marcus was reading through the documentation, his face growing paler. This is actually quite thorough. It's ridiculous, Turner snapped. You can't charge your husband for being a wife and mother. Actually, Tessa said, domestic labour has recognised economic value in family court. There are numerous precedents for compensating unpaid household contributions in divorce proceedings. She chose to stay home. At your encouragement. We have emails where you discouraged her from returning to work, citing the children's needs and your travel schedule. Turner looked at Marcus desperately. This can't be legal. Marcus was still reading. The documentation is extensive. Time logs, photographic evidence, market rate research, legal citations. He looked up. You might want to consider a counteroffer. A counteroffer? She's trying to extort me. She's seeking fair compensation for services rendered, Tessa said calmly. Services that enabled you to advance your career, while she sacrificed hers. I supported her. I paid for everything. You paid for basic living expenses, while she provided labour worth nearly $500,000. Labour that allowed you to work 60-hour weeks without worrying about childcare, meals, or household management. Turner stood up abruptly. This is bullshit. Complete bullshit. Sit down, Turner, Marcus said quietly. We need to discuss this. Discuss what? Paying my wife for doing what wives do? For doing what professional service providers charge substantial fees to do, Tessa corrected. If you'd hired a nanny, housekeeper, chef, and personal assistant to handle what Yasmin handled, you'd have paid market rates. Turner slumped back into his chair. Yasmin, this is crazy. You know this is crazy. I looked at him across the table. This man who'd called me lazy, dependent, unproductive, who'd dismissed my contributions and planned to leave me with scraps. What's crazy is that I did all of this for free. You did it because you're my wife. I was your wife. Now I'm your creditor. Marcus leaned over to whisper urgently in Turner's ear. Whatever he said made Turner's face go white. We need a recess, Marcus announced. After they left the room, Tessa turned to me with satisfaction. How do you feel? Like I can breathe for the first time in years. Good, because we're just getting started. When Turner and Marcus returned 20 minutes later, Turner looked like he'd aged 5 years. His confident swagger was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before, genuine fear. We'd like to make a counteroffer, Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. I'm listening, Tessa replied. $50,000 added to the original settlement, one-time payment. Tessa didn't even blink. That's roughly 10% of documented services. We'll need to do better than that. Turner leaned forward. Yasmin, be reasonable. You can't seriously expect... Actually, we can. Tessa opened another folder. Because we're not just talking about back pay anymore. We're talking about custody. Marcus straightened. What about custody? Mr. Perry has been largely absent from day-to-day childcare. Mrs. Perry has documentation showing she handled 93% of all child-related responsibilities over the past 5 years. I work to support them. You work 60-hour weeks by choice. You've missed school events, parent-teacher conferences, medical appointments. You've never handled a sick day alone, never managed a school pickup schedule, never coordinated a play date. Tessa slid another document across the table. Text messages between Mr. Perry and his wife showing his consistent unavailability for parenting duties. Turner grabbed the papers. These are private conversations. These are evidence of parental involvement, or lack thereof. Tessa's voice was ice cold. A judge would be very interested in seeing how often you told your wife to handle it when the children needed something. Marcus was reading the messages, his expression growing more concerned. Turner, some of these are what? Dismissive, particularly this one where Ross had pneumonia and you told Yasmin to figure it out because you had a client dinner. That was one time. Actually, it was 17 documented instances of you prioritizing work over sick children, Tessa said. We also have evidence of emotional neglect. She pulled out another folder. Georgia Perry's emails to family members describing Mrs. Perry as lazy and dependent, copied to Mr. Perry, who never defended his wife. Turner's face was red now. My sister's opinions aren't... Your sister's opinions, which you endorsed through silence, created a hostile environment for Mrs. Perry. We also have recorded conversations. Recorded conversations? D. Amber Norton attended your family dinner last month. She recorded several instances of verbal abuse directed at Mrs. Perry, with Mr. Perry's tacit approval. Marcus looked sick. Turner, you didn't tell me about any of this. Because it's not relevant. Yasmin's friend secretly recorded us. She recorded a pattern of emotional abuse, Tessa corrected. Particularly illuminating was your comment that Mrs. Perry contributes nothing to the family. I was frustrated. You were cruel, and it's admissible. Tessa stacked the folders neatly. So let's talk about what we're really looking at here. Full custody to Mrs. Perry based on documented primary caregiving and evidence of emotional neglect from Mr. Perry. You can't take my kids. We're not taking them. We're ensuring they stay with their primary caregiver, who has sacrificed her career and financial independence to raise them. Marcus was frantically taking notes. What would it take to avoid a custody battle? Full compensation for documented services, $482,000, plus ongoing alimony of $3,000 monthly until Mrs. Perry's youngest child turns 18. Turner stood up so fast his chair fell over. That's insane. I don't have that kind of money. You have business assets worth over $2 million, Tessa said calmly. You have retirement accounts, investment properties, and a salary that's increased 40% since your wife left the workforce to support your career. Those are my assets. Built while your wife provided unpaid labour that enabled your success. Marcus pulled Turner aside for another whispered conversation. This one was longer, more heated. I could hear fragments. Precedent for this. Judge will see. Business reputation. When they returned, Marcus looked defeated. We need to discuss the business implications. What business implications? If this goes to court, it becomes public record. Your business partners, your clients, they'll see the documentation of how you treated your wife. Turner's face went white. You wouldn't? We absolutely would, Tessa said. In fact, we've already prepared a press release about the case. Local executive sued for $500,000 in unpaid domestic labour. Should make for interesting reading in the business section. That would destroy my reputation. Your reputation should be destroyed, I said quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken in 20 minutes, and everyone turned to look at me. You treated me like hired help, then complained that I wasn't earning my keep. Yasmin, I never meant. You meant every word, every dismissive comment, every eye roll, every time you let your family tear me down while you sat there silent. Turner's voice cracked. I loved you. No, you loved what I did for you. You loved having someone manage your life while you took credit for being such a dedicated family man. That's not true. It's completely true, and now you're going to pay for it. Marcus cleared his throat. What if we agreed to 200,000 plus increased alimony? 482,000, Tessa repeated, plus alimony, plus full custody unless Mr. Perry can demonstrate actual parenting involvement going forward. Turner slumped in his chair. You've ruined me. No, I said, standing up. You did that all by yourself. The room fell silent except for the sound of Marcus's pen scratching across legal documents. We'll need time to arrange the finances, he said finally. You have 48 hours, Tessa replied. After that, we file in court and release the documentation publicly. Turner looked up at me with something between hatred and desperation. I never thought you had it in you. No, I said, that was your mistake. Turner signed the settlement agreement on a Thursday morning in Tessa's office. His hand shook as he wrote his name, and he couldn't look at me directly. The first payment will be transferred today, Marcus said, sliding the documents across the table. The remaining balance will be paid in installments over 6 months. And the custody arrangement? Tessa asked. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody to Mrs. Perry. Mr. Perry gets every other weekend and 1 evening per week, supervised initially. Supervised, Marcus nodded grimly. Given the documented absence from day-to-day parenting, the court recommends a transition period. Turner finally looked up. Yasmin, the kids are going to ask questions. What are you going to tell them? The truth, that Daddy and Mommy are getting divorced and they'll be living with me most of the time. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. You want me to protect your image with them, the way I protected it with everyone else for 8 years. They're my children too. Then act like it. Show up for them. Actually, show up, not just when it's convenient. Turner stood to leave, then paused at the door. You know this won't make you happy, right? All this money, all this revenge, it won't fix what's broken inside you. I looked at him steadily. The only thing that was broken inside me was believing I deserved how you treated me. That's already fixed. After he left, Tessa pulled out a bottle of champagne she'd been hiding in her desk drawer. To the most satisfying case of my career, she said, pouring 2 glasses. Is it over? Honey, it's just beginning. You've got your life back. The house felt different that evening, lighter somehow, even though nothing had physically changed. The kids were at my dad's for the night. He'd insisted on taking them for pizza and a movie while I handled business. My phone buzzed with a text from Georgia. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed a good man over petty grievances. Turner is devastated. I stared at the message for a long moment, then blocked her number. Another text, this one from Sadie. The children need stability, Yasmin. Please think about what's best for them, not your own hurt feelings. Blocked. Amber called while I was packing Turner's clothes into boxes. How are you feeling? Rich, I said, and we both laughed. Seriously though, are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm free. What's next? I found a townhouse in Ross's school district. 3 bedrooms, small yard, perfect for us. I put an offer in this afternoon. And work? I'm starting a consulting firm, helping other women document their contributions before they need lawyers. Turns out there's a market for that. Of course there is. You're going to be busy. Good. I like being busy when it's my choice. My dad came by the next morning to help me start moving things to storage. He'd been quiet about the divorce, but I could tell he was proud. "You know," he said, taping up a box of Turner's books, "I never liked how he talked to you. Why didn't you say anything?" "Would you have listened?" I thought about it. Probably not. Sometimes people have to figure things out for themselves, but I'm glad you did. Ross and Scarlett adjusted to the new routine faster than I'd expected. The townhouse was smaller but cosier, and they each got to decorate their own rooms however they wanted. "Mommy, are you happier now?" Scarlett asked one evening while I was tucking her in. "Yes, sweetheart, I am." "Good, you smile more now." Turner's first supervised visit was awkward. He sat stiffly in our living room while the kids showed him their new rooms, clearly uncomfortable with the court-appointed supervisor taking notes. "This is a nice place," he said when I walked him to the door. "Thank you. Yasmin, I want you to know, don't. Whatever you're about to say, just don't." He nodded and left without another word. My consulting business took off faster than I'd anticipated. Word spread through social media, mum groups and legal networks. Women started reaching out, sharing their own stories of invisible labour and financial control. I hired Amber as my business partner. We called it Worth Documentation Services, and our tagline was simple: know your value. 6 months after the divorce was finalised, I was sitting in my home office when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Yasmin Hunt?" "Yes. My name is Rebecca. I got your number from a friend. My husband just told me I don't contribute anything to our marriage, and I think I need your help." I opened a new client file on my computer. "Tell me everything." As she talked, I thought about Turner's parting words about revenge not making me happy. He was wrong, of course. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice. And justice, it turned out, was incredibly satisfying. "The first thing we're going to do," I told Rebecca, "is start a spreadsheet. If he wants numbers, we'll give him every damn one." I gave him 5 years of unpaid labour. All he gave me was the excuse to make it count.